Hogwarts, Master of Mind. Chapter 1, New Audience. In 1980, in the village of Bibarel in southwest England, the sky was dark and a drizzle of rain was falling on the village. A huge dark symbol flashed in the night sky, casting a shadow over the quiet village. Lupin was holding a baby in his arms, walking through the night. Suddenly, a spell flew over. Lupin rolled forward and barely avoided the spell. Hand over the child, Lupin. Pruitt has dared to defy the great Dark Lord, and that Lord has ordered his destruction. I didn't expect Gideon to keep the child. If I kill him, the 28 pure blood clans will be permanently missing a clan, ha 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 ha. A madman shrouded in a black robe let out a twisted laugh. Don't even think about it. Suddenly, a spell hit the man in black robe from behind, and he was knocked away instantly. It seems that I am late, Remus. Arthur walked out from the shadows, apparently having just arrived at the village of Bibarel. No, you're just in time. This child is the last bloodline of the Pruitt family. You take him to Molly, Lupin said as he handed the baby to Arthur and took out his wand. I received a message from Sirius, asking me to go and protect James. After that, with a fluctuation in space, Lupin left the village of Ottery St. Catchpole. Well, it looks like it's just you and me. Arthur teased the baby in his arms, got on his broom, and headed home. In the burrow, Arthur handed the baby to Molly. I'm sorry Molly, when I arrived, only this little guy was left. It seems to be Gideon's child. He should be the last child of the Pruitt family. Molly took the baby, tears of sadness slowly overflowed from her eyes, and she remained silent for a long time. Arthur, let us raise this child. Molly said, I am the last relative of this child in the world. Okay Molly, it's just right for him to keep little Ronnie company, and we have plenty of children at home. Arthur understood the sadness in his wife's heart and had to change the subject. We will write to Professor Dumbledore later. And what about the child's name? Did Gideon tell you? Aiden Pruitt. Where am I? The new time traveler opened his eyes. Aiden Pruitt? Is this my name? Ding, hello host, the fantasy system is at your service. System? I still have a system. Where am I? Aiden thought back to the laughing figure from last night. It seems that I have traveled through time. There is also the Dark Lord, Lupin, and this is Harry Potter. Ding, yes. System, explain your function. Ding, this system is designed to cultivate the host's growth and ascend to the throne of God. Is there a panel? Show it to me. Name, Aiden Pruitt Age, 1. Magical power, spirituality. Bloodline, trace amount of dragon blood. Spells, none. It seems that I have a good talent for potions, Aiden thought narcissistically. By the way, does the system have any novice gift packs? Ding, a novice gift pack is detected in the warehouse, do you want to open it? Open. Ding, the gift package has been opened, and a set of audience path potion has been obtained. The host is detected to be in the infant state and has been automatically used. As the potion was used, Aiden felt his spirits lifted, his mental strength, observation, and memory were slightly enhanced, and every detail of the past was vivid in his mind. Audience? That's a good ability. Although I can't fight, I can make up for it with wizard spells. And as a baby, I don't need to participate in any battles. It would be great to hide behind the scenes and do things quietly. System, do you have any other functions? Ding, this system can extract the properties of the potion materials collected by the host. Characteristics, for making potions for advancement. Thinking about it, he suddenly felt sleepy. It seems that this body is still too young. Aiden fell into a deep sleep. The next day, Aiden woke up from the crib. There was another baby lying on his left. The red hair was a little sparse, but his identity as a Weasley family was obvious at a glance. Is this one of the Iron Triangle? After looking at Ron for a while, Aiden turned his head to the other side and found Arthur Weasley and Molly Weasley sitting next to them, holding letters sent by owls in their hands, and they were discussing the contents of the letters. Molly, Dumbledore sent a message that the Dark Lord has failed, Arthur said excitedly. Yes, Arthur, but didn't you read Dumbledore's letter? James and Lily died too. Oh, poor Harry, he lost his parents when he was so young, and why should Harry be sent away from the wizarding world? There would be many people willing to adopt him. I don't know, but this is Dumbledore's decision, isn't it? We should trust him. Listening to the conversation between Arthur and his wife, Aiden roughly understood the current time. It seems that last night was the night that the boy who lived became famous, and also the night that Voldemort lost his body. Aiden complained in his heart. While Aiden was daydreaming, he suddenly felt that the potion seemed to have been digested a little. Is this considered acting? So the audience's way of acting is to eat melons? Is it really true that the melon eaters are melon eaters, and they eat melons very quickly? When Aiden was indulging in eating melons, no, in acting, Molly Weasley found Aiden waking up, so she stopped talking, stood up and hugged Aiden. Arthur, the little guy is awake. I'll take him and Ronnie for a walk in the courtyard. After saying that, he picked up Ron and Aiden in each hand. Aiden rolled his eyes and thought, my Aunt Molly, this is how you raise a child, and don't stop, let me eat more, no, let me continue to play the role of the audience. Unfortunately, Molly Weasley could not hear Aiden's thoughts and carried them towards the door. Arthur Weasley called from behind, by the way Molly, come back early at noon. Professor Dumbledore is coming to the Burrow. I will also be back early from the Ministry. Got it. Mrs. Molly walked out without looking back. Outside the house, Aiden finally had a chance to see the whole picture of the Burrow, which was a crooked little house with irregular windows and a sloping roof. It looks a bit shaky, but it is actually very solid. The outer walls of the house are covered with plants, giving it a messy yet vibrant feel. The yard contains a small garden filled with a variety of plants, including magical herbs and vegetables. Although it looks shabby, it is full of warmth and magical atmosphere. It deserves to be the place called a safe haven by the Savior in the future, Aiden thought to himself. Chapter 2. Legacy and Growth. Good afternoon, Professor Dumbledore. Mr. and Mrs. Weasley greeted Dumbledore. Good afternoon, Arthur and Molly. A tall and thin old man with a distinct wizarding temperament walked out of the fireplace. His long white hair and beard show his age and wisdom. His eyes are deep and bright, revealing an otherworldly temperament. He usually wears a long black robe decorated with patterns of stars and moons, which makes him look more mysterious and solemn. It looks like Aiden has been doing pretty well these past 2 days. Yes, Professor, he is my nephew. Molly Weasley answered sadly. I'm sorry to bring up your sad story, Molly, but to make a long story short, today I'm here to hand you the key to Gringotts of the Pruitt family. This child is an orphan of the Pruitt family, and these assets should belong to him. Perhaps they can also improve your family's life. As he spoke, Dumbledore took out a key and handed it to Molly, winking at her. Aiden listened from the side and used the power of the audience to observe Dumbledore's external performance. Powerful magic gathered on Dumbledore, and his spirit sent a warning to Aiden. His excellent brain occlusion technique perfectly controlled Dumbledore's every move, making Aiden unable to see anything. What a powerful spirit, this feeling is at least from a demigod, I hope he won't discover my spying. After waiting for a while, it seemed that Dumbledore didn't find anything, and Aiden's heart gradually settled down. No, Professor, I will give the money to Aiden, Molly replied firmly. Yes, Professor. Although our Weasley family is poor, we will not covet this child's property. As for this child, he will grow up with our biological children. Arthur also spoke. Oh, it seems that I worried too much. The Wisengamot still has a meeting to attend, and there are still many matters waiting to be dealt with in the school. Then I will take my leave first. Dumbledore stood up. One more thing, this child seems to have some innate power, I hope you can teach him well. After he finished speaking, a phoenix flew in from the window, and with a flash of flame, Dumbledore disappeared. Aiden was shocked when he heard this. He was discovered. Is this the legendary wizard? Aiden stared blankly at the place where Dumbledore disappeared, his heart full of yearning for the future. He needed to improve his strength as soon as possible. After hearing what Dumbledore said, Arthur, who was standing by, looked at Aiden for a long time. Is there anything special about this child, Molly? Asked Arthur. No, maybe it's some inheritance from the Pruitt family. I need to check the books at home. As she said that, Molly walked up the stairs. Our protagonist Aiden could only roll his eyes in his heart. How could one possibly tell something like talent? Arthur was also a little off the mark. A baby's body is very fragile, and as a spectator, this approach does not bring much benefit to the body in the early stages. Therefore, Aiden's body is not much bigger than that of an ordinary baby, and he can only wait for time to pass slowly. Time flies by like running water, and 6 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Aiden, who was 6 years old at this time, had fluffy black hair that was as soft and smooth as a crow's wings. His eyes were like deep lakes, sparkling with intelligence and curiosity. His skin was slightly pale, which seemed to reveal his innate magical aura. He always has an innocent smile on his face, which makes people want to pinch his cheeks. His facial features are delicate and cute, his small nose is slightly upturned, and his lips are as red as cherries. He was wearing a black wizard robe with a few patches embroidered on the corners, which fluttered with his movements as if they had life. When he used his audience ability to perfectly control the emotional fluctuations in his heart and the expressions on his face, his eyes revealed determination and confidence. It seems that he has mastered the most powerful magic in the world. Under the influence of the wizard family, this cute 6-year-old boy is gradually showing his unique charm and potential. That day, Aiden was reading a book called 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi with great interest. George and Fred were playing outside the house, and shouting could be heard from time to time. Ron and Ginny were sitting on the sofa playing chess, and Mrs. Weasley was busy in the kitchen. "Aha, I win again," Ron's proud voice came from a distance. "Humph, I won't play with you anymore." Ginny, who had lost the game of chess, ran back to her room in a rage. Aiden glanced at Ron and Ginny, and sighed in his heart that the Weasley family's little drama was quite interesting. Seeing Ginny leave, Ron could only pack up the chessboard in disappointment, but he was still not satisfied and set his sights on Aiden. However, as a spectator, Aiden could see through Ron's thoughts through his smug little face. "Aiden, stop reading and play chess. You've been reading that crappy book for 3 months. Dear Ronnie, first of all, if you could let our lovely little sister go, you wouldn't be in such a situation where no one plays chess with you. Secondly, this book is written by Philly Dosper. It is an important reference book for Hogwarts students to learn how to identify and distinguish various herbs. You will have to learn it sooner or later. If you enter school and still know nothing about magic, you will be laughed at by students from ordinary families. But we still have 5 years before we go to Hogwarts. What's the point of reading these books now? And let them laugh if they want to. I don't care." At this moment, Ron clearly looked like a poor student. Aiden could only smile and didn't comment. Suddenly, a wave of spiritual energy came from his body, and his originally full body seemed to have digested something and could start eating again. Aiden understood that this was a signal that the audience's potion performance was complete. It can be said that the audience's role-playing has been going on since shortly after Aiden was born. The reason why it took 6 years is because it takes a long time for the spirituality of the potion to be converted into the wizard's magic power. Thanks to the fact that Ottery St. Catchpole is a mixed village of wizards and muggles, Aiden can observe the living conditions of various muggle families as a bystander. I accumulated progress on the performance bit by bit, and finally completed it today, 6 years later. At the same time, during these 6 years, since Aiden learned to read and write, he has been obsessed with browsing various magic books. The Weasley family has accumulated a variety of magic books, which were undoubtedly the best entertainment products in the 90s when people were far away from electronic products. In addition, having lived an ordinary life for many years in his previous life, it was difficult for him to suppress his curiosity now that he had entered an extraordinary family, so he began to look for all kinds of interesting books in the family library. For Aiden, the Weasleys also classified the library and sealed up the books on dark magic, which made Aiden feel very sorry. Chapter 3. Role-playing and Gringotts. Looking at Ron playing chess with himself, Aiden thought it was time to prepare for promotion. In the afternoon, Aiden came to Mrs. Molly. "Aunt Molly, I need to buy some materials to practice potion making." "Potion making? No, Aiden, you are still too young. The process of potion making is accompanied by certain dangers." "Aiden, I know you are a smart child. Let's read books first to accumulate knowledge, and then practice potion making after entering Hogwarts, okay?" "But Aunt Molly, I have already studied all the content for the Owl's exam." "What? Is this true?" "Yes, Auntie. If not, you can test me." "Okay then, I'll test you. If you pass my test, I'll allow you to practice, but you can only make potions in our presence. If you fail, you'll have to wait until you go to school." Mrs. Molly put her hands on her hips. Good aunt. What are the ingredients in the demulcent? Moonstone dust and hellebore syrup. What are the ingredients for the moonlight potion? Moonflower, crystal dew, biting cabbage, and the resin of the whomping willow. What is the most important material needed to make an enhancer? Needs to add salamander blood. The last question is about the steps to prepare the starlight secret liquid. Prepare for the ritual on a moonlit night, choose a quiet place and lay out all your ingredients. Light an incense stick of sandalwood and lavender to purify the space. To blend star dew, pour star dew into a pure crystal bottle and gently sprinkle a pinch of thyme sand in to suspend it in the dew. Add phoenix feather, dip the phoenix feather into the dew and watch as the feather slowly dissolves, releasing a golden glow. Grinding the fruit of wisdom, carefully peel the skin of the fruit of wisdom, take out the seeds inside, then grind the fruit flesh into a paste and add it to the crystal bottle. Smelting the dragon's blood resin in a small copper pot, heat the dragon's blood resin until it melts, then slowly pour it into the crystal bottle and mix with the other ingredients. Sprinkling moonstone powder. Finally, sprinkle the moonstone powder evenly on the surface of the liquid. It will quickly blend into the potion, making the entire liquid emit a faint silver glow. Shake well. Put the lid on the crystal bottle and shake gently to combine all the ingredients. Seal. Use a magical spell to seal the crystal bottle, ensuring that the potion's potency does not leak. Well, it seems that your knowledge of potions is indeed very solid. All right, I will ask Arthur to bring first-grade potion materials from J. Pippin Potion Shop. Molly couldn't bear Aiden staring at her with his big eyes, so she had to agree to Aiden's request. No need, Aunt. I can take money from the Pruitt family's treasury and let Brother Bill take me to buy materials. How could Aiden, who had ulterior motives, let his uncle control the source of his materials? He had no choice but to make a new request. Mrs. Molly looked at Aiden for a long time, and finally agreed to Aiden's request. Forget it, Bill has been writing letters to someone at home every day since he came back from vacation. It's okay to ask him to take you out for a walk, but you are absolutely not allowed to go to the alley. Okay, Aunt Molly. Aiden quickly pretended to be well behaved. In the afternoon, at Gringotts, Bill brought Aiden to the hall and complained to him, Aiden, hurry up, I still have a letter that I haven't received. I guess Errol, the Weasley family's owl, has already arrived home. I have to go back quickly. Okay, Brother Bill, whose reply makes you so anxious? Aiden looked at Bill with a playful expression. None of your business. Bill rejected Aiden's teasing and rolled his eyes at him. Entering the gleaming bronze gate of Gringotts, goblin guards in scarlet and gold-studded uniforms stood at the door, bowing to customers as they arrived. The second door was silver, with the following words engraved on it, Come in, stranger, but beware. What will happen to greed? To take without effort will be punished most severely. Wasn't this passage really written for the goblin himself? Aiden secretly complained in his heart. There were tall counters on both sides of the hall, and many goblins were working on them. When they came to the counter, Bill took out the key and handed it to one of the goblins. We are going to the Pruitt family's vault. The goblin took the key, compared the key to see if it was real, and returned it to Bill, shouting, Lyle, come and show the guest to the vault. A short, wrinkled goblin with long, pointed ears and large, protruding eyes walks over. His hair is usually grey or brown, tied back in a messy knot, and he wears ragged clothes, probably made of rough cloth, covered in dust and dirt. This way, please, two guests. Griphook led Bill and Aiden to the mine cart. When the two were seated, he pulled the trigger and the mine cart moved forward and passed through a waterfall. This is our anti-thief waterfall. It can wash away the camouflage magic on the intruder. As the mine cart sped along, it passed by one vault door after another and finally stopped in front of the Pruitt family's vault. Bill handed over the key and Griphook opened the door of the vault for the two of them. Golden light shone from behind the door. Here was stored the Pruitt family's wealth for hundreds of years. Bill was stunned by the mountain of gold in front of him and couldn't take his eyes off it. After all, Aiden was an extraordinary person in the audience sequence. He controlled his emotions very well. He glanced at Bill's out-of-control look, smiled, and thought, who can refuse Jinshin? Okay Bill, we'll take about 50 galleons. Bill came back to his senses when Aiden spoke. Oh, Bill, look, my ancestor's magic wand is still here. I'll take one and practice magic at home. Aiden said as he picked up a magic wand. Are you sure? Mom won't agree. Bill hesitated. It's okay, Bill. It's just a wand. I'll practice some daily magic. Aunt Molly won't mind. Aiden waved his wand, and a breeze blew in the vault. It seems quite suitable. Well, don't drag me into this when Mom blames you. After withdrawing the money, the two walked through the old-looking door of the leaky cauldron and entered a dim but bustling place filled with smoke and a strong smell of beer, with people talking noisily and their voices echoing in the air. In the corner, there was an old fireplace covered with vines. Bill grabbed a handful of powder and chanted Hogsmeade, followed by Aiden. In an instant, the flames rose sharply, forming a fiery vortex. Aiden was sucked into the vortex. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in a completely different world, Hogsmeade. This isolated village was full of magical atmosphere, with ancient buildings and peculiar shops everywhere. Chapter 4, Potions and Preparations for Promotion. When he first arrived in Hogsmeade, Aiden was not attracted by the prosperous scene before him, but was planning in his mind the items he would need for promotion. System: make a list of materials for upgrading potions. Ding: main materials: complete pituitary gland of an adult 7-colored lizard dragon, 10 ml of cerebrospinal fluid from a Falzman rabbit. Auxiliary materials: 5 grams of chestnut spores, 8 grams of amaranth powder, 3 petals of pure white fairy flower, 100 ml of pure water. But the pituitary gland, cerebrospinal fluid, and fairy flower, these 3 materials do not exist in this world. Ding: you can use the feature extraction function. This system has calculated the following results: extracting the pituitary gland of the African rainbow lizard and the dragon's blood can synthesize the pituitary gland of the 7-colored lizard. Extracting the cerebrospinal fluid of the rabbit and the feathers of the evil bird can synthesize the cerebrospinal fluid of the Falzman rabbit. Extracting the properties of white mulberry and thistle can synthesize the pure white elf flower. I see. The lizard dragon corresponds to the Asian dragon part, the Falzman rabbit represents the half-ghost, and the elf flower is responsible for healing. Now the potion is complete. Aiden put away his thoughts and thought of a way to get Bill away. Bill, help me buy some candy from Honeydukes. Oh, and bring some back for Ginny and the others. Aiden took out 5 galleons and handed them to Bill. But don't I still have to take you to buy potion ingredients? Bill asked in confusion. Just go ahead, I've made a list of potion ingredients, I can do it myself. Besides, it's a rare trip to Hogsmeade, don't you want to buy some snacks to try? Aiden tempted, as if a pair of devil horns had emerged from his head. Well, we'll meet at the door of Honeyduke. Bill was tempted by the audience, and his willpower was reduced by 1. Aiden sent Bill away and strode towards the potion shop. Welcome to J. Pippin's Potion Shop. As we entered the door, the enthusiastic voice of the owner, Jerome Pippin, came from the direction of the counter. At first glance, I saw an old man with a thin figure, wearing a slightly old but extremely neat green robe. His hair was completely white and combed into a neat ponytail, and his eyes revealed a gentle yet sharp light. Hello, Mr. Pippin, I want to buy materials for the potion. Here is the list. By the way, in addition to the above materials, I also need a handful, a few glass bottles with corks, some dragon's blood, and thistle. Aiden secretly activated the guidance to make himself harmless. Well, let me see. The list contains the ingredients for a potion to treat scabies. What are those things at the end for? It's used to practice potion improvement. Oh, you are such a thoughtful little wizard. I'll go pack the materials for you. Please wait a moment. After that, Mr. Jerome went to organize the potion materials. After a while. Okay, little guy, these are the materials you need, a total of 40 galleons. Can you carry them? Jerome placed the packaged materials on the counter. Of course, Mr. Pippin. Aiden picked up the ingredients and turned to leave the potion shop. Duke of Bees, Bill was still immersed in the joy of sweets when Aiden came in from outside the door. Bill, it's time to go back. Have you bought the things? Aiden looked at Bill's appearance and decided to wake him up. Okay, let's go back through the 3 broomsticks fireplace. Bill was also carrying 2 large packages in his hands. Afternoon, the burrow. Bill was the first to push open the gate. Mom, we're back. Hearing this, Madame Molly turned around and said, Oh Bill, didn't you go to buy potion materials? Why did you use the packaging of Duke of B? Did you steal your brother's money? No, Aunt Molly, these are the snacks I bought. I wanted to share them with Ginny, Ron, and the others. Seeing that Molly's face looked strange, Aiden hurriedly explained. Yes, Mom. Bill quickly agreed. Okay, Bill, share the snacks with your brothers and sisters. I'll watch Aiden make the potion. Mrs. Molly sent Bill away. Okay, now it's just us. Time to practice potions. Mrs. Molly took out a crucible and placed it on the fire while speaking. At this time, Aiden released his ability to guide Molly, causing her to ignore the materials for upgrading potions. Aiden began to make the potion, and through the audience's precise control of the body and mind, he methodically completed the potion to treat scabies. Oh, what a skillful technique! The quality of the potion is also good. Aiden, you are very talented in potions. Molly praised Aiden sincerely when she saw him finish the potion, refining steadily. Thank you for the compliment, Aunt Molly. Okay, today's practice is over. You go and play. I'll clean up the cauldron. I also have to clean the attic later. That ghoul has been making a lot of noise lately. Molly complained as she prepared to clean up the cauldron. Aunt Molly, leave the cleaning of the crucible to me. It's a good opportunity for practicing spells. Seeing the opportunity, Aiden volunteered without hesitation. Aiden used guidance to make himself look very reliable. Spell? But I remember you didn't have a wand. Molly was a little confused. It's a wand I got from the Pruitt family's vault. Look, it's freshly cleaned. Aiden cast a desk-alling spell on the table, and the grease stains on the table disappeared instantly. Oh Aiden, beautiful spell casting. All right, I'll leave the cauldron to you. Even a witch like Molly Weasley, who came from a wizard family, had never seen a little wizard who could cast spells with just a wand. But she couldn't lose her adult demeanor, so she could only suppress her shock and go to clean the attic. Finally, Aiden got a chance to touch the crucible alone. Aiden quickly took out the materials and silently said in his mind, System, extract the material properties, and synthesize the corresponding materials. Ding, synthesis completed. Aiden picked up the materials, used the audience's ability to calm his inner turmoil, and began to refine the mind-reading potion. Add pure water, add chestnut spores to the mortar, grind them into extremely fine powder with a pestle, put the chestnut spore powder into the crucible, then add dragon tooth grass powder, pure white elf flower, the pituitary gland and cerebrospinal fluid of the colorful lizard dragon into the crucible, wave the magic wand to inject spirituality. Aiden's talent for potions seemed to tell him that the preparation of sequence potions was like an overturned spice box, just a mixture of various ingredients. However, there was no time to think about it, and Aiden quickly collected the potions. The colorful potions were packed in glass bottles, shining brightly in the sun. Finally, I had gathered all the conditions needed for promotion. But I couldn't be impatient. I still had to be fully prepared. Aiden didn't rush to take the potion, but put away the glass bottle. Clean it up. Aiden used a desk-alling charm on the cauldron, extinguished the flame in the furnace, and returned to his room with the potion in his hand. It was afternoon, and Ron, George, and Fred were playing outside, and the sounds of their playfulness could be heard from the courtyard from time to time. It seemed that they would not be back for a long time, so Aiden closed the doors and windows, making the room a completely enclosed space. Okay, now it's time for promotion. Chapter 5. Promotion and System. Aiden in the room was naturally very excited, but under the control of his ability he seemed very calm. System, can I build a spiritual wall? Ding, the host can pray to the system. Wait, you have this function? Why didn't you tell me before? Did that idiot who was writing eat the book again? Ding, yes. Well, promotion is important, what is the prayer? Ding, an outsider who does not belong to this world, the great master of the sea of consciousness, the grey dragon that controls the mind. Wow, this word contains a lot of information. Aiden was amazed, but now was not the time to think about these things, promotion was important. Aiden stuck the knife into the wall, took 4 steps backwards, and chanted, outsider who does not belong to this world, great master of the sea of consciousness, grey dragon who controls the mind, please lower your gaze and help me build the spiritual wall. After saying that, an unspeakable force descended upon the world. This force was so huge that the tiny wizards as individuals should have been intimidated by it. However, the strange thing was that everyone seemed to have given up observing the abnormality in Aiden's room at the same time. Preparation is complete. Aiden took out the glass bottle from his pocket and drank the potion in one gulp. Tisk, I don't seem to feel anything. Aiden, who was wondering if he had drunk a fake potion, suddenly went dark and lost consciousness. While unconscious, Aiden seemed to have passed through several layers of film and came to a place made up of bizarre bubbles. Below was bottomless darkness. In front of the darkness there was a layer of film with several tiny cracks on it. Where is this? Aiden muttered to himself. Cluster of biological consciousness. A voice came from all directions, making it impossible to determine where the owner of the voice was. Who? Aiden looked around warily. The audience system is at your service. The system is on the host. System? Were you the one who pulled me here? By the way, have you become more humane? Your speech has become more fluent, and the ding sound has disappeared. Aiden seemed to have discovered something new. This is the lowest level of the cluster close to biological consciousness. Below that is the absolute realm. The host would not have been able to reach here before sequence 4. The system introduced to Aiden. Oh, I roughly understand. Is it going to do some bloody routine again? Is there any monster coming out from below? I will follow my destiny to fight it, right? This is how you come here, system, right? Aiden had an indirect burst of wit and poured out his guesses. Congratulations to the host for learning how to answer quickly, but the host only guessed part of it correctly. The purpose of the system is to assist the host in ascending to godhood, not to do something according to the host's destiny. Then why did you bring me here? Aiden asked, puzzled. It's just to answer the host's confusion and eliminate the host's suspicion. The system replied helplessly. I'm not on guard against System Gagei. I trust System Gagei the most. Aiden clamped it. Host, the essence of the system is uniqueness. The system finally solved the mystery. The host has never trusted the system. The system has been locked in the host's soul because of the host's suspicion. The host tried to integrate the system with the soul. However, the host should have anticipated the consequences of accommodating uniqueness in advance without reaching a high enough level. And the system has already had a certain impact on the host. If it weren't for the fact that the soul of the other world had become tougher after being baptized by the void, the host would have gone crazy now. After hearing this, Aiden finally stopped acting up and his eyes became deep. You have your own will, and I can't completely trust you. Aiden stared ahead seriously, although there was nothing there. Host, the system has already emphasized the uniqueness of the system. The system can give birth to wisdom and intelligence, but it will not have a self. The system is a tool. Bringing the host to the cluster of biological consciousness is also to gain the host's trust. In the consciousness cluster, all organisms will be in their own conscious bodies. Can the host discover the existence of the system here? The host reflects its own consciousness to see if there are any parasites on the host's consciousness. There's really nothing. Okay. I'll try to trust you. Aiden looked at it for a long time and chose to give the system a little trust. After all, as outsiders stranded in a foreign land, people ultimately need companions. So, what do we do now? Aiden asked the system. The system will send the host back, and then the host will release the system from the soul. The system responded. After saying that, Aiden's body flashed, and he passed through the film again and began to float upwards. On the way, Aiden finally saw clearly that it was an endless sea with many islands floating on it. Bubbles kept floating above each island. If you look closely, you can find that there are dreams in the bubbles. Finally, Aiden fell into darkness. That night, at the burrow, Aiden woke up from his bed. Ron and George were playing chess nearby, and Fred was watching behind George. He was already aware of the mind reader's ability, and by the way, he also saw that Fred was about to intervene in the game. Well, In order to maintain Fred's true gentlemanly demeanor, Aiden decided to make a little noise to attract the attention of the three people. Ron opened his eyes wide and ran out, shouting, "Mom, come on, Aiden is awake." Hearing this, Molly quickly ran downstairs and looked at Aiden, who had woken up. Tears seemed to be welling up in her eyes. She quickly walked to the bed and hugged Aiden, who was sitting up. "Merlin bless you, you finally woke up. Are you feeling unwell? Fortunately you are okay, otherwise how can I explain to your deceased father?" Aiden was hugged by Molly, and his heart was touched by Molly's care. He said, "I'm fine, Aunt Molly. I'm sorry to have worried you. As Aiden spoke, he integrated his ability into his voice to calm Molly's emotions. It's all right now. Arthur and I examined you. I guess it's probably because of the awakening of the Pruitt family bloodline that caused the magic riot, which caused a slight change in your appearance. But it doesn't matter. Mrs. Molly has already explained the reason for Aiden's coma, which makes Aiden feel relieved and no longer pay attention to his coma. Well, now that you're all right, eat something. I'll bring you the pumpkin porridge. Mrs. Molly got up and walked out of the room. Cool Aiden, you look different than before, and Mom has been worried all afternoon. George spoke to Aiden. It's much better, George, Aiden replied. He is George, I am Fred. Aiden, my dear brother, it's been 6 years, you still can't tell us apart. George accused, pretending to be angry. That's right, that's right. Fred joined the crusade. However, this simple trick cannot fool Aiden, who has been promoted. As a spectator, Aiden can only observe the external performance of others. Nowadays, we can directly see the target's aura and emotional color, read shallow thoughts, and even preliminarily simulate other people's thinking. George and Fred's emotions were bright green, which represented playful teasing, so Aiden didn't hesitate to expose their tricks. Okay, I recognize you guys, stop making trouble and let me rest for a while. It's boring to be found out. Chapter 6, Mind Readers and Mind Masters. With George and Fred gone, Aiden finally had time to acknowledge the changes in himself. He looked at the mirror, and the boy in the mirror was very handsome. His skin was white, smooth like porcelain, with a faint blush, and his fluffy black hair was partially grey under the candlelight. The eyes became heterochromatic, one iris was the deep blue as before, and the other turned golden. The pupils were no longer dots as before, but vertical ones, as if a giant dragon was staring at him. Dragon, wait a minute, a dragon? System, open the panel. Ding, name, Aiden Pruitt age, 6. Magic, spiritual. Bloodline, dragon blood awakening. Spells, common household spells, levitation spell, flash spell, confusion spell, transfiguration, elementary. Oh, it seems that promotion will actually improve academic talent. But that's true. Modern wizard magic mainly relies on the power of the mind, and the audience is also good at this. There is also dragon blood. No wonder the eyes have become vertical pupils. Is there any plastic surgery for promotion? Aiden Hood thought and closed the panel. System, how can I free you from your soul? Ding, the host can use the mind reader's ability to release the soul defense. Okay, Aiden said, and activated his abilities, slowly consuming his spiritual power. A faint light flashed, and a blue gem appeared in Aiden's hand. System, this time Aiden's call did not receive a response. It seems that the system has indeed left my body. Aiden held up the gem in his hand and looked at it carefully. Is this the uniqueness? It seems nothing special. He tried to inject spirituality into it. Ding, after the spirituality flowed into the gem, the system responded. It seems that a different method needs to be used when using the system in the future. Today has been enough of trouble. It is time to rest. Aiden returned to the bed and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, Aiden woke up from the bed, washed up, and tied the gem with a rope, casually hanging it around his neck. Anyway, I'm not afraid of losing it. As the only extraordinary person in the audience sequence, according to the law of extraordinary characteristics aggregation, either I find it or it finds me. After breakfast, he came to the courtyard to test the other abilities of the mind reader. Outside the courtyard, George and Fred were chasing and playing. The Beau's garden is filled with various plants and magical creatures, such as goblins, which are not very intelligent and are suitable for training. Aiden walked into the medicine field and stopped in front of a hole dug by the goblins. He used a levitation spell to drag a goblin out of the hole, activated his ability on it, and the goblin immediately stopped struggling. So, what should I do to you? Aiden put on an evil smile, which matched his handsome appearance, as if the devil was tempting innocent passers-by. Let me think about it. The role of a mind reader is to guide others while trying not to have any abrupt, illogical, or unreasonable behavior. Only when all the details are gentle and reasonable enough so that the target can't even realize that he or she is being guided or arranged, can it be considered qualified. The two most important words are gentle and reasonable. Aiden thought, blending spirituality into language, and whispered in the goblin's ear, "You are already a mature goblin, why are you chasing after the wizard's house? Look at the lush reed field next to it. It is not occupied by any goblins and there is milk and honey everywhere. The goblins need a leader with foresight, a goblin with the courage to conquer the reed field. He has come, in this time, and he will lead the other goblins to victory, and we all know that this is you." After finishing, the goblin left in a flash. At the same time, Aiden felt that he had completed a role. That's it? It doesn't seem that difficult. Or are the goblins so stupid that they can't detect my guidance at all? Aiden hesitated to speak, as if he didn't feel any sense of accomplishment at all. After playing enough, Aiden returned to the house, where Molly was preparing lunch. Seeing Aiden coming over, she was about to speak, but Aiden had already read Molly's thoughts. So he spoke first, "Okay, Aunt Molly, I'll go call George and Fred back right away." Aiden turned around and went out to look for George and Fred. At lunch, everyone gathered at the table to enjoy the warm moment that belonged to the Weasley family. Molly was still immersed in Aiden's previous behavior. After hesitating for a long time, she decided to ask, "Aiden, are you a telepath?" "What?" the other members of the Weasley family exclaimed at the same time. "Yes, Aunt Molly, I have gained some kind of power that allows me to see through people's thoughts. I can read superficial thoughts relatively easily, but I cannot read thoughts that are too deep for now. Moreover, it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, and it can be uncontrollably activated." Fearing that his family would become alienated, Aiden decided to conceal part of his mind-reading ability. "Mind Master, this is so cool, I also want this ability," Ron said enviously. Bill and Charlie were discussing with great interest, but Ginny didn't seem to care. It was obvious that the 5-year-old girl was still at the stage where she was happy to share her inner thoughts with her brother. George and Fred exuded an aura of being up to something. George said, "No wonder you can always tell the two of us apart. It turns out you can read minds." Fred took over George's words and said, "Come hang out with us next time, so that you won't be caught by Mr. Vlad when you play a prank on the village." Mrs. Molly said, "George, Fred, both of you shut up. Okay Aiden, we are family, if you encounter any problems, you can just tell us directly, and we will all help you." Arthur added, "Telepathy, a good talent. Maybe he can join the Aura Army after graduation." Madame Molly gave Arthur a look and said, "Look at what you are talking about. Aiden is not old enough to go to Hogwarts, and the Ministry of Magic is not so poor that it has to employ child labor." Arthur smiled and said, "By the way, Aiden, now that we know your talent, you can train a little on the corresponding spells. A wizard's talent will allow him to achieve extraordinary results in learning a certain type of spell. Are you going to sort out the Weasleys and Pruitt's collections of books?" Mrs. Molly asked Arthur. "No, perhaps we can ask for help from a more suitable person who also has impressive accomplishments in the field of memory magic." Arthur did not accept Mrs. Molly's suggestion, but instead proposed a new plan and winked at Mrs. Molly. "Oh, I see. He is indeed a good teacher, but are you sure he has enough time to teach Aiden? I mean, maybe there is no need to be so anxious. We can wait until Aiden starts school naturally. He is still so young." Mrs. Molly was a little worried, but at the same time she was reluctant to part with young Aiden. It's the holiday season at Hogwarts, so he should be free. And, Molly, you know that telepaths deal with people's hearts, which will have an impact on Aiden's growth. Even a very young child cannot bear to be peeped into too many hearts." Arthur said seriously, "Aiden has extraordinary talent, I believe he can do it." So Aiden's next schedule was finalized after a speech by the head of the Weasley family. Chapter 7. Bumblebee and Beginning to Learn. Arthur made the decision and started writing the letter immediately. The other members of the Weasley family also went about their business. Only Aiden was left sitting on the sofa in a daze, secretly sighing in his heart that he was probably going to be given to an old bee. A few days later, when Arthur was resting at home, Mrs. Molly cleaned the house early in the morning. Aiden watched the two of them busying around, as if preparing to welcome someone's arrival. Is it coming? Aiden thought. A green flame flashed across the fireplace of the burrow, and a thin and tall old man walked out of the fireplace. Hello, Arthur and Molly. Dumbledore greeted the Weasleys. Welcome, Professor Dumbledore, Arthur responded. Please sit here. Molly also warmly welcomed him. After everyone sat down, Mrs. Molly handed over tea, and Arthur spoke first. Professor, the details have been introduced in the letter, so I will not repeat them. Otherwise, you can take a look at the child first. Of course, Arthur, come and let me see him. Dumbledore beckoned to Aiden. Come here, boy. Aiden walked forward, looked at Dumbledore, and greeted, Hello, Professor. Dumbledore looked at the boy in front of him with a dazed look in his eyes. After a while, he said, Arthur, Molly, when I sent this child to your home, I felt his talent. It turns out that telepaths can always bring surprises to us pioneers. Yes, Professor, although you reminded us back then, unfortunately, Molly and I are not proficient in this kind of magic. Arthur replied helplessly. Come on, child, use your talent on me. Don't be afraid or disgusted. Magic is so magical. Dumbledore said to Aiden. After listening to Dumbledore's words, Aiden began to read Dumbledore's thoughts, but he still saw the huge magic distorting his realization. Aiden said helplessly, I'm sorry, Professor, I can't see it. Your magic seems to be blocking my observation, and the light of your emotions has never flickered. Ah, emotions, yes, it is an excellent talent, my thoughts are surrounded by love, you can't see my thoughts. Dumbledore winked at Aiden, and Aiden just wanted to roll his eyes at him. Then Dumbledore looked at the Weasleys and said, I have a general understanding of Mr. Pruitt's talent. It seems to be slightly different from that of ordinary telepaths. He is observing my magic and emotions to read my thoughts, which is different from a telepath, but I will still teach Mr. Pruitt. After all, a wizard who can peek into people's hearts is always unpopular, isn't he? I'll leave the child in your care, Professor Dumbledore. It was Molly who spoke. She was the one who was most reluctant to let Aiden leave at the beginning, but now she decisively let Aiden and Dumbledore leave. Don't worry too much, Molly. He'll just be gone for a while. Arthur comforted her. Okay, then I will take the child away and bring him back after a while. After Dumbledore finished speaking, he stepped forward and took Aiden's hand. A phoenix flew in from the window, and after a burst of flames, the two disappeared from the house. The phoenix's spatial transformation is obviously much more comfortable than apparition. Although Aiden has never tried it, he can tell from the description in the book that apparition is not a pleasant experience. It would be nice if I could have a phoenix in the future. Aiden thought to himself. Here we are. This is my house in Godric's Hollow, although I haven't lived here for a long time. Dumbledore said to Aiden. Fawkes stood on Dumbledore's shoulder and looked at Aiden with interest. By the way, it seems that we need to do a little cleaning before moving in. Dumbledore drew out his wand and pointed it at the house, clean it up. After reciting the spell, a breeze blew up out of nowhere, and the window glass that was originally covered with dust instantly became transparent. Looking inside, the interior decoration and furniture were also quickly becoming brand new. Dumbledore waved his wand again, restored to original state, the broken tiles on the house were healing, and some pieces even flew from the ground to the roof. The broken glass was also repaired, and the broken furniture in the house was quickly reconstructed under the effect of magic. This large-scale spell targeting the entire venue gave Aiden a great shock. He actually cast the spell directly at the entire house, and a single spell directly targeted multiple targets. Dumbledore's title as a legendary wizard is not an exaggeration. This spellcasting skill probably gives him an advantage in wizard duels. It's just that he doesn't like duels, otherwise it's hard to say whether the championship of the wizard duel will go to someone else, right, Professor Flitwick? Okay, come in, kid. I'll ask the Hogwarts elves to bring you anything else you need. Dumbledore greeted Aiden and walked into the room. Okay, Professor. Aiden followed and complained, oh my god, if there were no elves, would I still have to make fire and cook by myself? Professor, am I going to study with you for the next period of time? Aiden asked naively. I'm afraid so, child. We need to help you control your gift as soon as possible and ensure that it does not cause you any harm. Dumbledore replied. Okay, Professor, so where should we start? Well, I prepared it before I came here. Then Dumbledore took out 2 books from his pocket and said, here. Aiden was stunned. This traceless extension spell is really dispensable to you magic masters. I'm so envious. I want to do the same when I learn it in the future. Thinking of this, Aiden stretched out his hands and took the 2 books. The names of 2 books are printed on the book, namely secrets of the brain peeping into other people's souls and brain occlumency, from beginner to mastery. You study the contents of the book these days first. I will help you practice these two magics later. I still have some school matters to deal with, so I will leave first. I have arranged for Coco to take care of you in life. You can call him if you need anything. Dumbledore made arrangements for Aiden's future study and life, and then with a flash of flame, he performed a disappearing spell for Aiden. Coach, I want to learn this, and Coach, you are too irresponsible. Aiden complained silently in his heart. Seeing that Dumbledore had indeed left, Aiden sat down on the sofa, opened 2 books and started reading. Aiden was immersed in reading and didn't notice the passage of time. In the blink of an eye, it was getting dark. Aiden also felt hungry, so he called out Coco. In a flash, a house elf appeared in front of him. He was short, with bat-like ears, a thin nose, and prominent green eyes the size of tennis balls. Coco is happy to serve you, sir. Coco, please prepare a dinner for me, thank you. Aiden looked at the elf in front of him. The elf had not been abused. It was obvious that they were well protected in Hogwarts. Soon Coco prepared a dinner for Aiden. There were roast chicken, vegetable and fruit salad, phantom fish fillet and wonderful desserts on the table. After enjoying dinner, Aiden sat on the sofa and carefully read the book that Dumbledore gave him. After becoming a mind reader, Aiden's memory and mental strength were further enhanced. He could almost remember everything he saw. Soon he finished reading both books. Chapter 8. Others take holidays while I attend classes. There was a breeze on the July night, and the summer heat could not dispel the enthusiasm of the little wizards. Aiden, who was in Dumbledore's house, was suddenly interested when he heard the little wizards playing outside the window. Aiden went to the window and began to observe the little wizards playing outside to see if he could practice legilimency. But when he looked around, he could only see the color orange, which was full of enthusiasm, vitality and happiness. His ability to read minds allowed Aiden to instantly understand what the little wizard was thinking, but this was not what Aiden wanted. After a while, he lost interest and gave up observing. The thoughts of the little wizard were too simple and straightforward, and were not suitable for practicing legilimency. Aiden took out the system gem, injected magic power into it, and said silently in his heart. System, I have something to ask you. Ding, what questions does the host have? I'm trying to learn legilimency, but the cooperation between the mind reader and the audience allows me to directly read other people's thoughts from their emotions, magic, body movements and expressions, and legilimency is not activated. How should I coordinate magic and ability? Ding, host, the activation of magic is more about the distortion of reality by magic under the influence of thought. Although the extraordinary ability of the audience path is also participated by magic, the object of distortion is more of the host itself and the sea of collective subconsciousness. On top of this, the sea of collective subconsciousness pries the real world. Then how can I block the influence of my supernatural powers? Ding, has the host lost control? Why not just use his ability to give himself a hint? System, you have become more and more humane since you returned from the sea of collective subconsciousness. After getting the answer from the system, Aiden used his ability to give himself a hint. Now when he looked out the window, he could no longer directly see his thoughts through his movements and magic, as if there was a layer of mist between them. After finishing his preparations, Aiden looked out the window again, took out his wand and said, Legilimens. Finally, legilimency was activated, and Aiden successfully read the thoughts of one of the young wizards. Oh, this guy has nothing but sweets in his mind. Aiden rolled his eyes and gave up the idea of digging deeper. It seems that you don't need to look directly into other people's eyes when casting spells with a wand. Aiden continued to cast spells, reading the thoughts of other young wizards, and soon mastered legilimency to perfection. Unlocking the suggestion to himself, Aiden began to practice occlumency, inducing magic through suggestion to cast spells, and soon succeeded, reaching the point where he could fabricate his own memories. Okay, the next step is to combine the spell with the ability. Let's try this after Dumbledore comes to avoid sudden death. Aiden didn't think about it anymore and went back to the dormitory to rest. The next day, after a busy day, Dumbledore finally remembered that he had left a student at home, and hurried to Godric's Hollow. I'm sorry, child. It's easy for people to forget things when they are busy with so many things. Please forgive me, an old man. Dumbledore apologized skillfully. It's okay, Professor. I have already finished reading the books you gave me, and also tried the spells of legilimency and occlumency. Aiden gave Dumbledore a surprise. Try? To whom? Oh, it seems that Dumbledore only received surprise, not joy. Outside, the little wizard outside. Oh, child, we can't do this. It is not a good thing to snoop into other people's thoughts at will. Many telepaths are alienated by others because of this. Dumbledore said earnestly. Okay, Professor, I won't do it next time. Aiden made the promise, but the cunning flash in his eyes gave another answer. Okay, now that you can cast spells, let me practice with you. Dumbledore invited Aiden. Okay, Professor. Legilimens. Aiden took out his wand and cast legilimency without hesitation, but unfortunately it did not break through Dumbledore's defenses. Nice casting, the spells and movements are just right. If this were a school I would probably give your house 5 points. Then, let's try occlumency. Dumbledore didn't take out his wand, but just looked into Aiden's eyes. The moment he looked into Dumbledore's eyes, Aiden felt a gentle wave coming from Dumbledore's eyes, as if he wanted to tell him all the secrets. But the power of the mind reader quickly gave him a warning. The brain occlusion technique was activated, all emotions disappeared, and the mind reader's ability controlled the whole body, preserving Aiden's demeanor. You've also mastered occlumency quite well. It seems that I have completed my teaching task ahead of schedule. Oh no, you have completed it on your own. Dumbledore praised him. He looked very happy, like a worker who had been given an extra long paid vacation. Thank you for the compliment, Professor. So what should we do next? Perhaps you can practice other magic here. I left some magic books for you in the study. You can also go and have a look. Dumbledore said to Aiden, then I will leave first. If you want to go back to the burrow first, you can notify Coco to take you back. Good, Professor. Dumbledore left in a flash, and Aiden went to the study to see what books were there. Arriving at the study, the room was filled with the aroma of old books. The bookshelves were filled with thick magic books. The covers of some of the books were worn, showing signs of being frequently read. There is a huge desk next to the window, on which are scattered some alchemical props, magic potions, and some mysterious magical instruments. On the walls of the study were hung ancient magic maps and portraits of people who were closing their eyes as if they were resting. Let me see if there are any precious magic books. Aiden walked forward and observed the titles of the books on the bookshelf. Wow, my goodness, the most toxic magic, the secrets of cutting-edge black magic revealed, the old bee has bad intentions. Aiden instantly understood Dumbledore's purpose in bringing him here. So he took out a book on alchemy and began to read it with great interest. At this moment, Dumbledore was in the headmaster's office, listening to the portrait's report. Is it necessary to do this, Albus? Headmaster Dudley's Duent seemed a little dissatisfied with the current headmaster's actions. He hasn't even entered Hogwarts to study yet. You don't know, that child has an extraordinary power that seems to be related to the mind. I can't be sure whether it is a talent or a charm. It reminds me of an old friend of mine. Dumbledore explained to Dudley's. That child is a member of the Pruitt family. You are slandering him. He is slandering pure-blood wizards. Phineas Nigellus Black made a sharp explosion. Shut up, Phineas. The other principals couldn't stand it anymore and rushed forward to pin Phineas down, causing chaos. Well, you are the current principal, and we dead people can't interfere with your decision. Principal Dudley's Devante sighed. Dumbledore waved his wand, and all the headmaster's portraits were covered. The bustling headmaster's office instantly became quiet, leaving only Dumbledore, and no one knew what he was thinking. Chapter 9, Magic Trainee who has been training for 4.5 years. Ever since he studied magic with Dumbledore during the summer vacation when he was 6 years old, Dumbledore discovered that Aiden was unusual and paid more attention to him over the years. For Dumbledore, Aiden was a rare person who could cast many spells at a young age. His intelligence and speed in learning magic were far beyond ordinary people, which undoubtedly indicated that he would become an outstanding wizard in the future. However, Dumbledore also noted that he displayed an unusual mastery over his mind, which could be a powerful tool, but could also be a dangerous tendency. In Dumbledore's view, being able to love and be loved is a very important quality. If Aiden cannot be guided by love, then his abilities may be used inappropriately. Dumbledore hopes that as Aiden grows up, he can guide him to understand the true meaning and responsibility of magic, and he needs to learn how to use his wisdom and abilities to benefit others. Dumbledore was already very old and he could not afford to have a third Dark Lord in his life. Specifically for Aiden, he would meet Dumbledore from time to time during the holidays at Hogwarts, often learn magic from Dumbledore, listen to Dumbledore's education on love, maintain correspondence, exchange gifts on holidays, etc. Although the education of love may be a bit annoying, but with the guidance of a legendary wizard, Aiden's evaluation is that it is a sure win, my family. And the role of the mind reader was finally completed thanks to the unremitting efforts of the goblins in the courtyard of the burrow. By the way, the goblins have established a kingdom in the reed field next to the burrow, with a total of 20 goblins in the country. Aiden recently heard that they have completed the establishment of power, and the next step is to prepare a counterattack against those stupid humans on the ground. At the same time, Aiden was also invited to serve as the Prime Minister of the interior of the Goblin Kingdom, but Aiden rejected the invitation. That day, Aiden was walking in Diagon Alley. Aiden, who was 10 years old at the time, had a unique appearance. He has heterochromatic eyes, one is deep blue like an endless ocean, and the other is blazing gold like a burning flame. Such unique eyes give people a mysterious and charming feeling. His grey hair was soft and smooth, as if it was gently blown by the breeze. A faint light flickered between his hair, making him look even more holy. His skin was white, pure as snowflakes, and so delicate that you could almost see the blood vessels underneath. His lips were a light pink, and the corners of his mouth were slightly upturned with a hint of a smile. Aiden should have been the focus of everyone, but under the effect of the disillusionment spell, no one noticed him. After walking for a while, Aiden arrived at J. Pippin's potion material store. In recent years, the magic world has become more and more stable, and Mr. Jerome's business has been getting better and better. So, 3 years ago, he opened a branch in Diagon Alley and moved the store's potion material function to Diagon Alley. Of course, it may also be to deal with certain materials that cannot be placed on the table. Walking into the store, Aiden cancelled the disillusionment charm and greeted the clerk. "Good morning, Vincent, I need to buy some materials." "Good morning, Aiden. We have a new batch of foxtail pine cones arriving in the store today. Would you like some?" Vincent winked at Aiden. Over the years, Aiden has purchased a lot of materials from Vincent and contributed a lot of profits to Vincent. Bristlecone pine. Aiden was about to refuse when the system interrupted him. Ding, the foxtail pine cones can be used to extract properties to synthesize the fruit of the elder tree. "Give me a dozen." Aiden decisively chose to pay. "It's already been packed for you, is there anything else you need?" Vincent, the profiteer, was not satisfied. "Dragon blood, dragon's eyeballs, mirror-winged firefly wings." "Okay, 60 galleons at a discount." Vincent placed the packaged materials on the table. "You're a profiteer." Aiden took out the money and handed it to Vincent, then turned and left. "I'm a fair and honest place, welcome to come next time." Vincent's voice came from the store, but Aiden had already gone far away. Aiden entered the leaky cauldron, greeted Tom, and came to Godric's Hollow through the fireplace. During this period of time, in order to capture the wild Dumbledore that would refresh from time to time, Aiden obtained Mrs. Molly's consent and often practiced magic in Godric's Hollow, and sometimes even stayed there overnight. Coco is in charge of food, accommodation, and hygiene, but as for the fact that Coco is the property of Hogwarts, who remembers it and who knows about it? Entering the bedroom, Aiden spread out the materials, set up the crucible, took out a silver knife, chanted prayers, built a spiritual wall, took out the system sapphire in front of his neck, and injected magic power. Systems, extracting material properties, synthesizing materials. Ding, synthesis is complete. Aiden picked up the eye of the mirror dragon and the fruit of the elder tree, dripped 50 milliliters of his own blood, added auxiliary materials, and the potion was ready. The medicine was contained in a glass bottle. The slightly golden liquid rippled gently, like a deformed, huge pupil, whose sight could illuminate the pupil in everyone's heart. Aiden looked at the potion for a while, took a deep breath, and drank the potion in one gulp. Intense pain swept through Aiden's body. System, it didn't hurt that much last time. Aiden endured the pain but didn't dare to faint. His veins bulged and it felt like there were bugs wriggling under his skin. Ding, the last time you were promoted, the system took the host into the ocean of collective subconsciousness, so the pain was diluted and transmitted. The helpless voice of the system was transmitted from the gem to Aiden's mind. Then take me there now. Aiden tried to escape. Ding, can't do it. System, damn it. Finally, Aiden made it to the end of the promotion and officially entered Sequence 7. Aiden got up from the ground, not caring about the DIS system anymore, and started checking his own changes. The strength seems to have improved a bit. Aiden squeezed the table hard, but the table did not break. He lifted the chair again and finally came to a helpless conclusion: this physical fitness is still about the same as that of ordinary people. Next, let's see, in terms of ability, it's time to go find my dear goblin friends. Aiden ran downstairs, came to the fireplace, and returned to the burrow through the fireplace. The burrow is still as cozy as ever. Bill and Charlie have graduated and moved out of their home. The Weasley twins went to school last year and are currently attending classes on campus. Ron and Ginny played carefreely every day, but Ginny, who had a short memory, was playing chess with Ron. They were so focused that they didn't notice Aiden's arrival. Arthur was working at the Ministry of Magic, and Mrs. Molly was knitting a sweater. Aiden went up to her and said, "Hello, good afternoon, Aunt Molly." "Oh, Aiden, you're back." Mrs. Molly was delighted. "Yes, Auntie, I will live with you for some time." "That's great. Arthur will be back in the evening. I will prepare some more food." After saying that, Mrs. Molly went to the courtyard. Chapter 10, Ability Test and Conversation. Seeing that Mrs. Molly was getting busy, Aiden didn't want to disturb her, so he set off for the reed field. In the reed field, the construction of the Goblin Kingdom is in full swing. More than 40 tunnels have been dug. However, the size of the tunnels is designed to fit the height of the goblins, which is about 1 foot, 0.4 m. Obviously, this height is not suitable for Aiden. Aiden came to a cave entrance where 2 goblins were guarding and said to them, "Go gather all the goblins." 2 goblins staggered into the ground. A quarter of an hour later, more than 20 goblins emerged from the ground and surrounded Aiden from all directions. Aiden stood in the middle, activated his ability, imitated the goblins' body movements, and gave them a hint, which was, "We are all birds." Soon, the goblins struggled to fly, but without wings, they could only roll on the ground. Then came shock, frenzy, and appeasement, all of which were successful. This made Aiden feel relieved that his extraordinary abilities could finally affect others. Finally, Aiden took out his wand and tapped it in the air, lumos. A faint light lit up in the air, and the light was reflected in the eyes of the goblins. Aiden took the opportunity to use telepathy to communicate with the goblins' minds. However, the goblins' minds were empty. Apart from eating and reproducing, there was nothing to read, and Aiden soon lost interest. The goblins were given a hint again, asking them to return to the cave, thus ending this ability test. Back at the burrow, Arthur came over with a briefcase and met Aiden. "Aiden, you're back." "Yes, Uncle Arthur, Aunt Molly seems to have prepared a sumptuous dinner for us. Come in quickly." After that, Aiden and Arthur walked into the house together. Mrs. Molly was busy in the kitchen, preparing a carefully cooked dinner for her family. The kitchen was filled with all kinds of delicious aromas, making people salivate. The table was filled with a hearty meal of roast chicken, mashed potatoes, vegetable salad, and homemade bread in the shape of a magic wand. Molly also specially prepared their favorite chocolate cake for the children. The whole family sat around the dining table, enjoying this warm moment. The next day, Aiden received a letter from Dumbledore and went to meet him in Godric's Hollow. "Good morning, Professor. Is there anything you want to tell me today, or any new magic you want to teach me?" Aiden asked expectantly. "Good morning, Aiden. Please forgive the shallowness of an old man like me. Your learning progress is amazing. My mind has almost been emptied by you. I should leave some of the remaining knowledge for the fun of teaching other professors at Hogwarts." Dumbledore responded with a smile. Aiden rolled his eyes in his heart. Although he couldn't read Dumbledore's thoughts, the powerful sequencing ability of the hitman easily saw through this lie. "The main reason I invited you today is to talk to you about yourself and the future." Dumbledore looked at Aiden with deep eyes. "Child, I know that you have talents in magic that are beyond the reach of ordinary people. Your vision is often different from that of others. Once, when I was teaching a young wizard, I made a mistake that caused irreversible consequences. I blamed myself for decades afterwards." Dumbledore sat on the sofa and handed Aiden a cup of black tea. "And now, facing you who also has talents, I can't make the wrong choice again, so can we talk? Aiden looked at the old man in front of him. More than 100 years of wind and frost had taken away his appearance, his family, and his friends. Now this miserable old man is showing you his pain just to exchange for your sincerity. Why should you make things difficult for him? Well, Professor, it's time to talk. Professor, I don't have much pursuit for power, fame, and wealth, but of course I don't mind having them either. Aiden picked up the tea and took a sip. And your biggest concern should be what kind of colors I will paint on the canvas of the wizarding world, wizards and muggles in the future. Dumbledore sat up straight and listened carefully. Professor, I can't do anything. Nothing. Dumbledore was a little surprised. Yes, Professor. What I want to do most is to live with my family without worries. Professor, there is a philosopher in the Far East who proposed a concept that the most powerful thing a person can do is to do nothing. Aiden replied with a smile. I don't necessarily have conflicts with the wizarding world or the muggles. I don't deny that I am pursuing power, but after gaining power, I would rather not do something than use it to do something. After all, power gives us the right to refuse, doesn't it? Aiden used his ability on himself, making his expression and voice seem extremely sincere, but he did not give a real answer. Well, this answer does put me at ease. Please forgive me for being so worried as an old man. Dumbledore sorted out his thoughts. Looking at the old man on the sofa lost in thought, Aiden began to reflect, did he really look like the Dark Lord? Ding, you have a strong talent for magic and are good at playing with people's hearts. All you have left is to use black magic wantonly, and then the host will have all the elements of a Dark Lord. The system sent a thoughtful reminder. Shut up, I gave you the permission to connect to my mind and this is how you use it. Aiden said to himself angrily. Ding, anxious. Just as Aiden was immersed in the crosstalk theater of his mind, Dumbledore came back to his senses. Child, I've disturbed you for a long time today. I'll leave first. Dumbledore stood up and walked towards the door. After a flash, he disappeared from Aiden's sight. He left so quickly that Aiden, who was arguing with the system, didn't even have time to say goodbye. This old bee, even though he says he's old every day, he's still so efficient and decisive when it comes to doing things. Aiden couldn't help but complain. Ding, Dark Lord. You shut up. But Professor, your worries are not unreasonable. The climbing sequence will inevitably lose its humanity over time. Aiden sighed, stood up and returned to the burrow through the fireplace. Late at night, Aiden was lying in bed chatting with the system. By the way, system, there is one thing I have always been curious about. Why is the magic value displayed as a question mark? Ding, what does the host think is magic? Something similar to spirituality, stored in the body of a wizard/supernatural being. Ding, the host doesn't understand. The bodies of naturally awakened wizards among muggles are no different from those of ordinary people. They don't have organs to store magic. But wizards can easily distort reality when casting spells. The host thinks this is why. Wizards are powerful. Ding, that's right and wrong. Magic is a miracle bestowed upon a few people by the world, and the real threshold is the soul. The power of wizards lies in the fact that their souls are interfaces that can connect to the entire world. Therefore, when their will is combined with the magic that symbolizes the blood of the world, they can distort reality. Hey, then I can take off. Ding, the host is overthinking. Although the source of magic power is the entire world, it will inevitably cause pressure on the body and soul when used. In theory, physical strength and mental strength are the limits of magic power, but these two attributes are actually dynamic, so the specific values cannot be calculated. Ding, and the host's extraordinary sequence is the process of incorporating magic power into the body. The body will slowly give birth to magic storage organs, which means it will slowly transform into an extraordinary creature. Can't anyone else do it? Aiden asked curiously. Ding, you have to at least reach the level of an adult wizard, or be born with extraordinary blood. What about the fantastic beasts? Ding, insufficient information. Cut, convex. Ding. Chapter 11, Notice, Prophecy and First Encounter with the Savior. Before they knew it, it was 1991, and Aiden and Ron celebrated their 11th birthday with their family. In May, an owl delivered 2 letters to Aiden and Ron, and Aiden hurriedly opened the letters. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. President of the International Federation of Wizards, First Class of the Order of Merlin, Archmage, and Chief Magician of the Wizengamot. Dear Mr. Pruitt, we are pleased to inform you that you have been admitted to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Attached is a list of required secretaries and equipment. The semester is scheduled to begin on September 1st. We will be waiting for your owl to bring your reply before July 31st. Vice-Chancellor. Sincerely, Minerva McGonagall. The second sheet came with the materials the little wizard needed to wear when he started school. However, unlike Ron, who received 2 pages of paper, Aiden also received a letter from Dumbledore. Dear Aiden, congratulations on your journey to Hogwarts. I hope you can go with Rubeus Hagrid, the keykeeper and gamekeeper of Hogwarts, to pick someone up on July 31st. Your abilities may be helpful to your future classmates. After reading the letter, Aiden raised his eyebrows. He thought to himself, Old B has sent me an invitation to join a dungeon team. Should I join? Ding, the host can participate. System. Aiden was surprised. Ever since the system turned into a gem, its intelligence has been increasing day by day. Ding, prophecy magic is a magic that contains the rules for the operation of the world's magic. The host can participate in it and observe the world by becoming a part of the prophecy. It will be of great benefit to the host's spells and sequence abilities. Ron Weasley will also be involved. According to how much the host values his family, the host will inevitably be involved in this storm. Wait, Ronnie is also part of the prophecy, why? Aiden asked, confused. Ding, July's prophecy comes from the conflicts within the wizarding world. The souls of wizards connect the world, so it is inevitable that it is made. It is essentially a conflict between the pure-blood families who control most of the wealth and power, and the half-blood and muggle wizards who desire these things. Ding. The pure-bloods were unwilling to lose their power, so they created Voldemort as their spokesperson to reap the benefits. However, Voldemort lost control while studying the dark arts. This was unpredictable and yet seemed destined. The pure-blood families that were already deeply bound to Voldemort were dragged into the abyss. Killing and bloodshed spread, and other wizards were forced to get involved in their ambitions. Ding, but how can the purebloods, who are a minority, fight against the ordinary wizards, who are the majority? When the majority pray for peace, the collective subconscious resonates with the magic power, and the magic power rewrites the world according to the prayer. The result is undoubtedly that the prophecy is fulfilled, the Dark Lord falls, and the purebloods lose power. This also conforms to the rule of sociology that new things will inevitably replace old things. Ding, the host also knows that the prophecy has not ended. As a member of the pro-Muggle Weasley family and the same age as the person who is destined to be born, Ron Weasley will inevitably slide towards the center of the vortex due to the fluctuations of fate caused by the prophecy. Is there anything special about pure-blood families? Aiden asked again. Ding, the long history, the magic in the blood, and the deep connection with the misty fantasy world. A hazy illusion. Bite. Okay, I get it. Insufficient information again, right? Aiden has also reached a tacit understanding with the system at this moment. He knows that the system will use insufficient information as an excuse for things it does not want to reveal. I'll tear your mind apart sooner or later, humph. Aiden uttered a threat that was neither light nor heavy. Ding, equals W equals. Aiden looked at Ron, who was playing wizard chess on the sofa with pity, and prayed for him silently. On the other side, at number 4, Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey, Mr. Disley is the director of a drilling factory called Glennings. He has a happy family, a beautiful wife and a lovely son. Of course there was also a hateful nephew, but the Disleys never mentioned their nephew, and they never talked about magic. The Disleys always avoided such events. June 23rd, today is Dudley Disley's birthday. Mr. and Mrs. Disley prepared gifts for their son early. They are driving to the Surrey County Zoo, where they plan to spend the whole day. It was a perfect plan and a perfect trip, but unfortunately there was an imperfect person in the car, thought Mr. Disley, who was sitting in the driver's seat. The family came to the reptile house excitedly to see the various animals on display. Mr. Disley and his son knocked on the glass, making noises, but unfortunately the snake in the window didn't want to pay attention to them. Aiden, on the other hand, was holding an ice cream in his hand and watching the family's mischief with interest from behind. Aiden, who is already 11 years old, has become a tall and handsome young man. His handsome appearance should have made him the focus of everyone, but unfortunately this Sequence 7 psychologist does not want to be in the spotlight. Wait, Tingtinjiuli, you coding bastard, do you want to listen to what you are saying? Aiden dissed without hesitation. Ahem, that's not important. Let's go back to the window. The Dursley father and son lost interest and left in disappointment. A thin boy wearing ill-fitting clothes was still standing in front of the window, making a hissing sound. The snake also raised its head, and the two seemed to be having a conversation. Aiden looked at the boy. The blue light on his body showed the boy's lonely heart. But his magic power actually split into 3 colors. So love and protection are pink, so girly. And this purple, it faintly reveals a taste of madness. Well, it must be that adult. Aiden complained in his heart. At this time, Dudley, who saw the snake raised its head, ran back, pushed Harry aside, and knocked on the glass excitedly, while Harry sat on the ground and stared at the window. Oh, anger! Aiden was still eating melon in the front row. The glass of the exhibition hall window disappeared in an instant, and Dudley Dursley fell into the exhibition hall. Interesting, when Harry Potter cast the spell, the purple light expanded, and the magic power actually flowed through Voldemort's soul first. Aiden marveled at the sight. Fearing that the python might hurt someone, Aiden gave the python a hint and cast a healing spell on the window. After the hint, the python thanked Harry first and then quickly crawled out of the reptile house, causing a commotion outside. Good job, kid! Aiden said to Harry, and at the same time the suggestion Aiden had put on Harry failed. Harry, who was still immersed in joy, was called back to his senses by this voice. He looked behind him and saw a girl. A boy stood behind him, with a pair of heterochromatic pupils that attracted attention. Harry recalled in his heart why he didn't notice such a person by his side just now. Who are you? Harry asked. You'll find out later, but you might have to deal with the guy behind you first. Aiden left a suspense. Harry turned around and found Mr. Dursley looking at him with contempt. The glass of the window had been restored at some point, and the anxious Mrs. Dursley was knocking on the window. Dudley was trapped inside. Vernon Dursley only started to get angry with Harry when he got home. He was so angry that he could hardly speak. He only said a few words, go to the cupboard, stay without eating. Then he slumped down on the sofa, and Petunia Dursley ran over to pour him a large glass of brandy. Harry didn't know how long he stayed in the dark cupboard. He suddenly wanted a watch to check the time and make sure whether the Dursleys were asleep. Only when they were all asleep would he sneak into the kitchen to find something to fill his stomach. The escaped python brought Harry the worst possible punishment, and when he emerged from the cupboard the summer holidays had already begun. Chapter 12. Towers and Discoveries. Aiden's first meeting with the Saviour was hasty. In the penultimate week of July, Aiden went to Hogsmeade, entered Hogwarts through the secret passage of the Duke of B, and prepared to go to Hagrid's hut. I'm the only one who has entered the secret passage before entering school. Aiden thought as he came out of the secret passage. You look so familiar with the place, it doesn't seem like this is your first time at Hogwarts, Aiden. Dumbledore's voice came from beside Aiden. For people like us, keeping secrets in our minds doesn't seem so safe, right, Professor? Aiden laughed. I won't pry into other people's secrets easily. Dumbledore refused Aiden's attempt to drag him into the water. But the curiosity of young people will. Aiden didn't want to talk to Dumbledore anymore, so he changed the subject. Okay, Professor, I'm going to go find your dear gamekeeper. Have you forgotten the task you assigned to me? Yes, you have seen the child, how did you feel? Dumbledore accompanied Aiden to Hagrid's hut. The magic in him is complex, but what is certain is that he is kind. Even when he is the angriest, he still radiates compassion and tolerance. Aiden recalled what he had seen in the reptile house before. He's not the kind of person who would break his soul easily, Aiden concluded. As they talked, they arrived at Hagrid's hut and Dumbledore knocked on the door. There was a crash from inside the house, and the door opened, revealing a half-giant, perhaps 11.5 feet tall, wearing an oversized moleskin coat. Good morning, Mr. Dumbledore. Good morning, Hagrid. This gentleman is Aiden. He has not yet started school. I want you to pick up Harry next week and guide him to Diagon Alley to buy school supplies. You should also bring Mr. Aiden with you. Okay, Professor. Aiden and Hagrid greeted each other and got to know each other. Hagrid enthusiastically took out some rock cake and asked Aiden to taste it, but Aiden refused. After the greetings, Aiden returned to the burrow. Madame Molly was already preparing to take the twins and Ron to Diagon Alley to buy school supplies. Aiden, we are about to set off for Diagon Alley, you can come with us. Mrs. Molly invited Aiden. Sorry, Aunt. Dumbledore arranged for Hagrid and I to pick up Harry for school. I will go to Diagon Alley to buy them at the end of July. Aiden responded. Harry, is that Harry Potter? This is amazing. Ron exclaimed in admiration. Humph, that fellow Dumbledore is really getting old and confused. We can obviously take you there, and yet he even requires little wizards to help. He is using child labor. Mrs. Molly said indignantly. At this time, Aiden saw the mouse in Ron's arms. It was Bill's pet. Bill gave it to Percy, and Percy gave it to Ron. He squinted his eyes and looked for a while, his pupils erect like a big cat hunting. After a while, he thought of something and looked away. The Weasleys went to Diagon Alley first, leaving Aiden alone. At number 4, Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey, Mr. Dursley had a bad week. The letter that fell from the sky brought fear to the Dursleys. Peggy, Vernon gasped. Dudley tried to grab the letter to read it, but Vernon held it high to prevent him from grabbing it. Peggy grabbed the letter and read a line of words that almost made her faint. Fennon, oh my God, Fennon. Fernan, said Peggy in a trembling voice, look at the address. How could they know he slept there? Don't you think they're watching this room all the time? Watching, possibly following us, muttered Vernon. What should we do, Vernon? Should we write back? Tell them we don't want to. No, he finally said. We won't write back. If they don't get an answer, yes, that's great, we don't have to do anything. But, Peggy, we can't let it stay in this house. Didn't we swear to drive away the dangerous hostility when we adopted him? Right, let's get out of here, walk far away, so they can't find us, let's do it. Fennon pulled out a tuft of his beard and said as calmly as possible, I order you to pack your things and prepare to leave in 5 minutes. We must leave here, and you are only allowed to take a few clothes with you. Don't negotiate with me. The Dursleys took Harry and drove away from Privet Drive. They travelled a long distance and fled to a tower on an island reef, which they thought was the farthest place they could hide. As the night progressed, the storm became more violent. Harry couldn't sleep, he felt shivering. Looking at Dudley's watch, Harry drew a cake on the ground for himself, ready to celebrate his birthday at 12 o'clock. At the door of the tower, Aiden and Hagrid stood outside. It's terrible weather, but it's very English, Aiden joked. Hagrid did not respond, his attention completely focused on his upcoming reunion with Harry. He raised his hand and knocked on the door. After waiting for a long time and no one opened the door, Hagrid lost his patience and used the physical version of the Alaho hole, successfully destroying the door of the lighthouse. Entering the tower, the Dursleys looked at Hagrid in horror. Aiden stood beside Hagrid, squinting his eyes at the Dursleys. I'm so sorry. Hagrid spoke first. Can't you give us a cup of tea? We must have had a hard journey. Aiden said with a smile. Aiden used his ability to check the Dursleys' emotions and thoughts, fear, panic, protection, love. Wait, what do I see? Protection and love, interesting. Aiden continued to look at the Dursley family like a cat that had found a ball of wool. I order you to leave immediately, sir. You are trespassing. Although Fennon was very scared, he still spoke while holding the gun. Shut up, Dursley, you old scoundrel. Hagrid bent the barrel of the gun, and Vernon accidentally fired the gun in fear. Aiden then used soothing magic on the Dursleys to calm their fears. Everything went as expected. Hagrid gave Harry a cake and greeted him. Aiden took out a mechanical watch he bought at Sainsbury's and gave it to Harry. It's you, the one in the reptile house last time. We meet again. Hi, my name is Aiden and I'm your future classmate. Aiden looked at Harry and found that a strange wave was emanating from Hagrid, slowly brushing over Harry and staying on Harry. Aiden seemed to be somewhat familiar with this power. After recalling it for a while, he suddenly remembered, this is not. Ding, yes, this is the ocean of collective subconsciousness. The system bubbled. So the essence of prophecy magic is just a replica of the writer's ability. Ding, similar but different process. I see, this is really interesting. This observation aroused Aiden's interest and made him want to mess with the prophecy. Tisk, you bastard who's typing. While Aiden was talking to the system, Hagrid had already briefed Harry on the situation, and naturally added some external plug-ins for Dudley. Ignoring the Dursley's noise, Hagrid took Aiden and Harry out of the tower. Chapter 13. Diagon Alley and the Wand. Hagrid took Aiden and Harry for a stroll on the streets of London. The team consisting of the tall Hagrid and Aiden with heterochromatic eyes stood out in the crowd. However, Hagrid didn't care about the strange looks from the people around him. Aiden had no choice but to release the confusion spell, snap his fingers, and give hints to the people around him. The people who were originally staring at the three people turned their heads and went about their own business as if they had lost their target. Wow, that's amazing, Aiden, how did you do it? Harry was a little curious. A little bit of talent and hard work, Aiden responded. Hagrid, does Hogwarts teach this? I want to learn it. Harry was a little excited. After witnessing what Aiden did and the conversation between the two, Hagrid seemed to be hesitant to speak. Well, Hogwarts has a great headmaster. Harry, as long as you learn from him, you will be able to do the same in the future. With Hagrid's silence, Harry's excitement and Aiden's scheming, the three of them walked into the leaky cauldron. The bar was really dark and shabby inside, and a few elderly women were sitting in a corner, drinking small glasses of sherry. One of them was smoking a long pipe, and a young man in a tall hat was chatting with the old bartender. The old bartender's head was bald, like a swollen walnut. When Aiden and his party walked in, the buzz of chatter stopped immediately, as if everyone recognized Hagrid. They waved and smiled at him, and the old bartender held out a glass and said, "Same as usual, Hagrid." "No, Tom, I have important things to do. Dumbledore asked me to take little Harry and little Aiden to buy school supplies." There was a hint of pride in Hagrid's rough voice. "May his soul rest in peace, he is Harry Potter." As Tom exclaimed, the broken axe suddenly became quiet. "Welcome back, Mr. Potter." Harry didn't know what to say, everyone was looking at him and trying to shake his hand. Ignored Aiden looked at the people around him. They were filled with auras, colors of emotions, excitement, joy, gratitude, resentment. Resentment? Aiden looked at the man intently. He was a weak-looking young man with a thick turban wrapped around his head. Interesting, a fateful meeting. Aiden gave a wicked smile and used soothing methods to calm the excited emotions of the people around him, allowing the young man standing outside the crowd to approach Harry. "This is Professor Quirrell, Harry," said Hagrid. "Professor Quirrell will be your teacher at Hogwarts." "P.P. Potter," stammered Professor Quirrell, "I can't tell you how glad I am to see you." Quirrell held out his hand, but drew it back, and Aiden snapped his fingers, giving Harry the cue to shake Quirrell's hand. Harry attacked, and the moment their palms touched, there was a hiss sound, and the two men pulled their hands back in pain. "What's going on?" Harry asked confused. "It's tea that hot, but it might be the static." "Why, I used to do Muggle studies, so tea it's a natural phenomenon." Professor Quirrell explained with sweat on his forehead, while hiding the hand he had grasped under his robe, as if he was afraid that he would be grabbed by the big man in the next second. "Okay, it's getting late, we should go buy school supplies." Aiden, who had seen enough of the show, spoke up to help Quirrell out. So the three of them stopped paying attention to Quirrell and came to the back door of the bar and stood in front of the familiar trash can. "Up 3 blocks, sideways 3 blocks." Hagrid muttered. "Oh, and stand back, Harry." He knocked the tip of his umbrella against the wall 3 times. The brick he touched began to vibrate, the middle part squirmed violently, and a small hole appeared which grew larger and larger, and a second later there was an archway before them, large enough for Hagrid to pass through. The arch led into a cobbled street that curved out of sight. "Welcome to Diagon Alley," said Hagrid. The dazzling array of merchandise attracted Harry's attention. The young savior broke into the world of magic. Everything here was so charming that Harry couldn't help but linger. Hagrid took Harry and Aiden to Gringotts to get money and the Philosopher's Stone, bought textbooks, robes and cauldrons, and finally came to the wand shop. "Sorry, Aiden, could you take Harry to the wand shop? I have something to do," Hagrid said and ran out. Aiden and Harry walked into the wand shop, and when they stepped into the store, a crisp bell rang from somewhere in the store. "Good afternoon, a soft voice said. Aiden had already sensed Ollivander's approach, but Harry, who knew nothing about it, was startled. I have been wondering when I would meet you, Mr. Potter. You have the same eyes as your mother, and it seems as if she arrived only yesterday. She was chosen by a 10¼ inch long cypress wand. Your father's wand was mahogany, 11 inches long, and he was skilled in transfiguration. Oh, and you, Mr. Pruitt. Your family's unique eyes are unforgettable. The wand you carry is your father's. It is made of blackthorn wood and is 10½ inches. Although it is loyal to your father, this wand is still willing to protect you. However, it does not work so well with you. The wand chooses the wizard. Mr. Pruitt, you need a new wand. Aiden took out the wand he had on him, looked at it, and cast a cleansing spell on himself. I think it's quite handy, I'm sure my father won't mind. Gideon Pruitt rolled his eyes. Use it. No one in our family can outlive you. Okay, I've taken up a lot of your time. Who's going first? Ollivander said to the two. Let him go first. Aiden said humbly. Practice has proved that the power of prophecy surrounds Harry, and as if destined, the holly wand with phoenix tail feathers is handed to Harry. Well, next, Mr. Pruitt. Ollivander took out a tape measure and started measuring. Try this, red oak, leopard hair. Aiden took the wand and waved it, successfully performing the levitation spell, but unfortunately the magic power was not coordinated, and Ollivander also noticed this. No, not this one. Then try this hornbeam, the heartstring of the dragon. It's a powerful combination, suitable for your family's bloodline. Aiden tried it, but it still didn't fit. In order to save time, Aiden decided to speak up. Mr. Ollivander, my talent makes me slightly better in the spiritual aspect. Ding, slightly. Shut up. Aiden pinched the gem hanging around his neck. Ah, I see. Black walnut, dragon nerves, 11 inches. What a wonderful combination. Ollivander took out his wand and handed it to Aiden. Finally, the magic power reached a balance with the cooperation of the magic wand, and a feeling of omnipotence filled Aiden's heart. 7 galleons per person, Chinjui. Aiden and Harry paid readily. The owner of this kind of wand usually has extremely strong insight. Mr. Potter and Mr. Pruitt, I believe you will achieve extraordinary achievements. Ollivander said to the two before leaving. So achieved extraordinary achievements is just a polite remark, said to every little wizard, Aiden complained, and then took Harry to find Hagrid. Chapter 14. Pets and Homecoming. After Harry and Aiden came out of Ollivander's wand shop, they found Hagrid, who was carrying a cage with a snow-white snowy owl in it. Here you go, Harry, Aiden already gave you a birthday present, this is from me. Hagrid handed the cage to Harry. Thank you, Hagrid, and thank you, Aiden. I didn't have time to thank you last time. Harry said happily. Okay, Hagrid, you take Harry back first. I also want to go to the pet shop. Aiden said to the two of them, and the three of them parted ways. Your owl shop, Aiden walked in. Welcome, do you need an owl? Said the clerk Evelyn. No thanks, I just want to see if there are any other pets. Of course, we also have snakes, toads, mice, scorpions, etc. Which one do you need? The clerk said with a smile. If these wizards were to make goo, they would be very talented, Aiden complained. No, there are no cats. Of course, we have just received a batch of cats, with breeds from all over the world. Would you like to choose? The clerk introduced enthusiastically. In the end, Aiden chose a leopard cat. Oh, you have a good eye. This leopard cat comes from a country in the Far East. We took great pains to get it. Just tell me how much it is. Aiden had a blank expression. 20 galleons. 7 galleons, you have something to earn, I know that. The unsportsmanlike psychologist directly activated his ability. All right. After paying, Aiden went to the candy house to get some snacks, and then returned to the burrow with the leopard cat. In the living room, Ron, who inherited the Weasley family's legendary wand from Percy, was waving it excitedly. George and Fred were playing tricks on Ron with a spell they had made up. When they saw Aiden coming back, the three of them surrounded him. Oh, Aiden, you actually bought a cat as a pet. My pet is a mouse. Ron spotted the leopard cat at a glance. Don't worry, Ron. I will train it well and won't do anything to your rat. If you are really worried, you can hold your rat while sleeping at night. Aiden used Devil's Whisper, and Ron was hit, and his willpower decreased by 1. Aiden, where are the school supplies you bought? Why are you only carrying a small suitcase? George and Fred were obviously not focused on their pets. I cast a traceless extension charm on the trunk. The stuff is inside. Cool, the Ministry of Magic isn't forbidding. If you don't tell me and I don't tell you, who will know? Aiden interrupted the two of them. I'm going to tell Mum unless you make one for us too. The Weasley twins insisted. Okay. Finally Aiden compromised and the few of them reached a deal. In the room, Aiden let the leopard cat out and used soothing methods to prevent it from getting stressed out by being in an unfamiliar environment. It's time to give you a name. Aiden looked at the leopard cat and thought for a while. Aiden, who was not good at naming, snorted. System Gagei, help me. Ding, gross, provide a name, Leoparda, which symbolizes female leopard, swiftness, and elegance. It feels a bit weird, so let's omit the middle letter and call it Lotta. Aiden made the final decision. At the moment the names were chosen, a subtle magical power flowed between Aiden and Rada, which would have been imperceptible if Aiden had not been promoted twice. Is this a wizard's pet? Wizards are truly a blessed group. Aiden exclaimed. My wisdom and strength have been slightly improved. The most important thing is that I can find my magic power, which is equivalent to having a built-in anti-lost function. I won't be hurt if I don't poke you. Aiden suddenly had an idea. He thought of strengthening Rada again. He looked at Rada evilly, and the kitten also tilted its head and looked at him. Aiden did it right away. He took out the audience potion that he had made with extra materials in order to practice potion making. He picked up Dara and fed her the potion. Whisper Aiden used the whispering spell, and the transformation of the potion made Dara feel unbearable pain and howled continuously. Fortunately, Aiden cast the whispering spell, otherwise the Weasley family would have been attracted here long ago. Finally, the transformation of the potion was completed. Rada got up from the ground. His cat face was full of resentment. After glaring at Aiden, he turned around and faced Aiden with his butt. I'm angry and don't want to pay attention to you. Aiden pretended not to be able to read the air and picked up Rada, lifting her high up like the baboons lifted Simba in The Lion King. Well, from now on you will be the great fantasy cat. Cat Face was speechless. At noon, after lunch, Mrs. Molly found Aiden. Aiden, you are about to enter Hogwarts, and I want to take you back to the old Pruitt house. Mrs. Molly had a complicated expression. Okay, Aunt. Aiden saw that Molly was sad and comforted her. In the village of Biburl, the family house of the Pruitt family, Molly took Aiden outside the house. That night 10 years ago, your father and his brother died here. Now I'm handing the key to you. From now on, no one except you can find this place unless you bring them here. Is this place protected by the Fidelius charm? Aiden asked in surprise. You also know the Fidelius charm. By the way, you are so knowledgeable, just like your mother. Molly looked at Aiden and spoke slowly. And, what kind of person is my mother? Aiden was a little curious. Eleanor Pruitt, your mother, has golden hair as bright as the sun, and blue eyes as deep and bright as if they can see into people's hearts. Eleanor is particularly good at potions and herbology. In the end, she died heroically to protect you in the confrontation with Voldemort. Herbalism? Boy, I didn't inherit any of that. Just as Aiden was daydreaming, the two had already walked to the door and Molly opened it with the key. The old house seemed to have been uninhabited for many years, but the decoration and furniture inside the house were very well cleaned, as if someone was maintaining them every day. Aiden saw a flash ahead, and a house elf appeared before him. Well, is it Master Aiden? Sen knew you would come back. The contract between Sen and the Pruitt family has not been broken. Sen has been waiting for the master to come back. The house elf Sen said excitedly. Sen, thank you for waiting for me all these years. Aiden looked at Sen. You're welcome, master. This is what Sen should do. Do you want to stay, master? Sen looked at Aiden cautiously. Aiden didn't reply and turned to look at Mrs. Molly. Of course, Aiden, you can stay here. You are always welcome to return to the burrow. There will always be a place for you in the Weasley family, said Molly. Aiden hugged Mrs. Morley, thank you, Aunt. Chapter 15, Rectification and on the Train. In August, Aiden moved back to the Pruitt ancestral home and, under the guidance of Sen, familiarized himself with the facilities in the house. Master Aiden, this is the master's room, this is the library, and the basement is where the madam does experiments. Sen communicated with others for the first time in a long time, and he was a little chattering. And here, this is the room that the master and the mistress have prepared for you. When Aiden opened the door, what he saw was a family portrait. His father and mother were holding their newborn baby, with happy smiles on their faces. In the corner of the room, there is a white crib with exquisitely carved patterns on the edge. The sheets and quilts are soft pink, dotted with a few cute animal dolls. Next to it is a small wardrobe with fairy tale patterns painted on the door, adding a touch of innocence and fun. There was a thick carpet on the floor, which felt soft to the touch, and the lighting was also very soft. Sen, help me change the cabinet and bed. I will live here for a while. Okay, sir. After a flash, Aiden was the only one left in the room. For the next period of time, Aiden practiced magic during the day and read the books and notes left by Pruitt's ancestors at night. It was September, and Aiden met the Weasley family at platform 9 3/4. Aiden, Ron, and the twins all carried suitcases. You actually violated the ban of the Ministry of Magic. Well, forget it. Today is the first day of school, so I won't say anything to you, said Mrs. Molly angrily. Apparently out of convenience, George and Fred betrayed Aiden. Aiden glared at the two of them out of Mrs. Molly's sight, then ran into the platform first. Behind him, Ron met Harry as expected. On the train, Aiden randomly found a carriage and got into it. Hello, can I sit here? A timid voice came from outside the cubicle. Aiden looked up and saw the Gryffindor Swordmaster, the other one favored by the July prophecy. Of course, please take a seat, Mr. Longbottom, Aiden said to Neville. You know me? Neville looked surprised. No, I'm a telepath. Aiden revealed the answer directly. Oh, that's amazing. I heard from my grandma that people like you are rare. Unlike me, I don't seem to have any talent and I always forget things. But it's great that you can read minds. If I forget something, you can remind me. Neville touched his forehead and came up with a brilliant idea. It's my honor. Although I'm happy to remind you, it's a pity that I probably won't be able to read what you've forgotten. Aiden said helplessly. Oh, that's a shame. After a while, the door of the carriage was opened again and a little girl came in. Hello, is there any vacant seat here? I've been looking for a long time, but there are people everywhere. The girl spoke very quickly, like a machine gun. Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Hermione Granger. How about you? Hermione said to Aiden and Neville. Hello, Aiden Pruitt. Aiden picked up Lotta in his arms. This is my pet, Lotta. Lotta raised her paw to Hermione as if in greeting. Hello, my name is Neville Longbottom and this is Rafe. Neville held up his toad. Aiden looked at Hermione and read disdain in her emotions. After Hermione took her seat, the three of them started talking. Lotta seemed a little uncomfortable, so Aiden changed his position and hugged her. No one in my family is a wizard, so I was very surprised when I received the admission notice. Of course, I was also very happy because it is the best school to study magic. I have memorized all the textbooks, I hope it will be enough. Hermione spoke first. I come from a wizard family and live with my grandmother. I have a bad memory and my grandmother always scolds me. Neville also introduced himself. I am also a child of a wizard family. I used to live with my aunt, but now I have moved out to live on my own. The house elves in my family take care of my daily life. Aiden said. Oh, Aiden, your eyes are so special. Your pupils are also different from ours. Is there something special about people from wizard families? What is your daily life like? Do you often practice magic at home? Do you? Aiden handed her a lemon sherbet. Relax, Miss Granger. I can see that your mind seems filled with anxiety and worry about the future. You can actually see it? Hermione asked. Aiden is a telepath, Neville explained. Telepath, what is that? Hermione's question was not answered, but instead new questions arose. They are people who are born with the ability to read minds. They are called telepaths. Of course, wizards can also achieve the same effect by learning legilimency. Aiden explained. Oh, that would be great, I wish I had that ability too. By the way, I tried a lot of spells during the summer vacation and found that some of them couldn't be cast. What about you guys? Neville shuddered when he heard this. I can't do it. There are many things I can't learn. I always suspected that I was a muggle until they sent me the notice. Oh no, my life, it's gone. Neville sobbed when he found out that the toad was missing. Don't worry, Neville, we will help you. Hermione stepped forward first. Wait, why am I included? Are you the sheriff of the Inquisitor's Path? Aiden complained silently. Also, what a powerful toad. I didn't even notice it leaving. No, something must have blocked its departure. Aiden reacted and began to ask the system. System, isn't it? Ding, just as the host thought. On the other side of the train, Draco, who had just recruited 2 new followers, was in high spirits. Before leaving, Draco's father told him that Crabbe and Goyle would be his followers in school. He walked through the aisle of the train with 2 followers, walking with a breeze and looking very stylish. Sparks and lightning flew all the way to the carriage where Harry was. Draco pushed open the door and saw the boy who had been haunting his dreams. I heard that the famous savior is also on this car. Let's make friends. Draco extended a hand of friendship to Harry. No, Harry, he's a Malfoy, and all his family members are Death Eaters. Ron cheered from the side. Things happened just as expected. Harry rejected the friendly hand of Brother Drag and the 2 of them became enemies. Coincidentally, the group looking for the toad also came to the carriage where Harry was. Now, the originally spacious carriage became very crowded. Chapter 16. Draco and Aiden Dragon and the Sorting. Aiden followed Hermione into the carriage. When the sharp-eyed Ron saw Aiden, he immediately felt confident. Aiden, help us teach this little Death Eater a lesson. Draco was furious when he heard this. Look at this pair of strange eyes. They belong to the Pruitt family. Do you want to go along with Weasley, a pure-blood traitor? Take back what you said. Ron took out his wand and tried to cast a spell on Draco, but unfortunately nothing happened. You dare to cast a spell on me, Crabbe, Goyle, teach them a lesson. Draco was enraged and commanded his followers. That's enough. Aiden opened his eyes wide and used the shock skill. The pupils of his heterochromatic eyes stood up, making everyone present panic and chaos as if they were facing a dragon. Draco and his group were so frightened that they fell to the ground and crawled out in panic. My father will hear about this. After Draco and the others left, Aiden also released his words of comfort to everyone in the carriage. Good guy, fear in the left hand, comfort in the right hand. He is a new age auxiliary master. Aiden complained silently in his heart. This is amazing, Aiden, teach me this. Ron spoke first. Okay, I'll give you 2 books for you to read first. They're the ones Dumbledore sent me last time. You've seen them at home. Aiden rolled his eyes. Never mind. Ron's enthusiasm didn't even last 3 minutes. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Hermione and Neville also started chatting with Harry, and for a while Neville put the toad behind his mind. The train was about to arrive at the station, and the 5 people said goodbye to each other and returned to their respective carriages. Aren't you going to change into your robes, Aiden? Hermione asked. Aiden took out his wand and tapped his clothes. Under the effect of magic, the clothes slowly turned into a robe. Oh, you are really good at transfiguration. I have tried several times at home but failed. Aiden didn't respond, but pulled Neville out. They both changed into their school uniforms and got off the train. First years, please gather here. Hagrid's loud voice ensured that every little wizard heard his call. By this time it was completely dark. The weather in England in September was very bad, and soon it began to drizzle. Waterproof and moisture-proof. Aiden, Hermione, and Neville cast a waterproof spell on themselves. Since Aiden did not use a wand, Neville's eyes widened. Arriving at the Black Lake, Hagrid shouted to the young wizard, 4 people in 1 boat. Aiden and his group were the last in line, and when it was their turn, they had to share a boat with 3 people. By the way, I forgot to ask which college you want to go to. I've been hesitating between Gryffindor and Ravenclaw, but I heard that Dumbledore was from Gryffindor. Hermione was a little excited on the boat. My grandmother said that my parents are both from Gryffindor and she hopes that I can join Gryffindor. But I heard that young wizards in wizard families will be sorted into Slytherin, and I'm a little scared. Neville said in a low voice. I like Hufflepuff quite a bit. I heard that their headmaster is a master of herbology. I think she would be happy to give special treatment to the students of her own house. Aiden said casually. Oh, how can you think like that? I read in a book that professors from the 4 colleges will impart knowledge to us impartially. Aiden was non-committal. You'll know later. The boat arrived at the shore, and the young wizards gathered at the entrance of the academy, walked through the gate, climbed the stairs, and came to the outside of the Hogwarts Great Hall. Aiden and the other 2 stood among the little wizards. The 3 dry wizards looked a little out of place standing among the drowned rats. The cold night wind made the little wizards shiver. Alas! Life is not easy. Aiden sighed. He stretched out his hand and tapped the people around him. The gentle magic wiped away the water droplets on the little wizards' bodies. The little wizards who noticed the changes in themselves were looking for who cast the spell. Aiden smiled and concealed his achievements and fame, but Hermione saw this scene. What a powerful spell! Is this the little wizard from the wizard family? He needs to work harder when school starts. Hermione secretly made up her mind to kill the other little wizards. Little did she know that Aiden had seen through her thoughts. It looks like the new Gryffindor students are going to suffer. A group of ghosts flew out from the wall, and a kind fat monk came up to greet the little wizards. Oh, welcome to Hogwarts. I hope you can join Hufflepuff, which is the best house. Aiden looked at the ghost curiously and used his ability to observe. Sadness, pain? They actually have emotions, and their emotions are completely inconsistent with their external expressions? Before they had time to think about it, the door of the banquet hall opened and Professor McGonagall came out. She read out the precautions for the sorting to the young wizards and asked them to line up to enter. When Aiden passed by Professor McGonagall, she whispered, "Nice wandless spellcasting, Mr. Pruitt. It's a pity that you haven't been sorted yet, otherwise I would like to give your house an extra 10 points. After saying that, Professor McGonagall turned and left. Aiden was stunned when he heard what Professor McGonagall said, and thought to himself, Professor Cat is amazing, he can see me casting a spell through a door. As they lined up to head to the center of the hall, Hermione recited the contents of her textbook, and Aiden was amused by her. Pucci. Oh no, I laughed out loud. What's wrong? Aiden. Neville asked. It's okay, there's a happy event in my family. Aiden had no choice but to answer perfunctorily. Oh, congratulations! The group stopped in front of the teacher's table, and the Sorting Hat sang a song for the new little wizard. Seeing that the hat was about to sing again, Professor McGonagall quickly interrupted it. Now, those whose names are called, please come up and be sorted. Hannah, Abbott. Hufflepuff. Well, it really is the Iron Sorting Hat and the Iron Forging Hannah. Ron, Harry, Hermione, and Neville were sorted into Gryffindor. Aiden Pruitt. Aiden walked forward and Professor McGonagall placed the Sorting Hat on Aiden's head. Well, let me see, the Sorting Hat's voice was a little hoarse. Oh, it seems that there is a layer of protection on your mind. It's not a clumency. The old hat's sorting is not based on the memory of the little wizard. You can actually see minds. Aiden started communicating with the hat. Yes, I don't mind satisfying your curiosity, but you should finish your sorting first. After all, there are people waiting behind you. Can you remove your mental protection? Okay. Aiden relaxed his guard slightly. Oh, brave, shrewd, and intelligent. Gryffindor, Slytherin, and Ravenclaw are all suitable for you, but I want to hear your own opinion. I originally wanted to go to Hufflepuff, but now that's not an option, I might as well just pick one. Then why not ask yourself what you want to do? Little wizard who can mobilize the power of the mind to form a protective shield, ask your heart, it will not lie to you. Aiden used his ability to see his own mental body. It was himself before the time travel, and the mental body was smiling at him. I really still want to explore the mysteries of magic and the mind. I want to pursue that knowledge and explore the world along the path of past wizards. A surprising answer, but I know where you should go. Ravenclaw, the Sorting Hat called out. As Aiden looked directly into his desires, he discovered that his mental body had changed and became what he is now. At the Gryffindor table nearby, Hermione was looking at Aiden, and Ron went up to talk to her. Don't look at it. Aiden has been smart since he was young. It is expected that he would be sorted into Ravenclaw. Chapter 17. Welcome to Ravenclaw. Ravenclaw. The sorting hat finalized Aiden's final destination, and warm applause came from the Ravenclaw table. Aiden took off his hat and trotted to the long table of Ravenclaw. A beautiful senior student extended his hand to him. Hello, I'm Penelope Clearwater, your eyes are very special. Thank you, Aiden Pruitt. Aiden shook Penelope's hand. I didn't expect you to be such a jerk. You stayed on the stage for 20 minutes. What does it feel like to be a jerk? Penelope asked. The little witches around heard their conversation and pricked up their ears. The hat told me that I was also suitable for the other 3 colleges, but in the end I faced my heart and chose Ravenclaw. Aiden replied with a smile. A wise choice. Ravenclaw is the best house. Penelope agreed. Finally, the sorting ceremony came to an end. At the moment the sorting was completed, Aiden felt that he had reached a wonderful resonance with the magic of the castle. System. Ding, yes, as the host thought, this is a ritual that constructs a powerful protective magic by reenacting events that have happened. After thousands of years of rituals in Hogwarts, the entire castle is almost alive. Ding, the act of harming students is expected to be fiercely attacked by the castle. This attack will flow out from the sea of collective subconsciousness and spread to the real world. According to estimates, the strongest attack energy level can be comparable to Sequence 1. The system bubbled up for the first time in a long time. That means that harming students in Hogwarts will be punished. Aiden was amazed. No wonder Voldemort planned for so many years but failed to take down even a school. It's true that a demigod could fight against the King of Angels, but how did he kill Myrtle when he was in school? It was a rare opportunity for the system to pop up, and Aiden didn't intend to let it go. Ding, it is speculated that there are multiple factors. First, Voldemort himself is a student of Hogwarts, and the protective magic is also effective on him. Second, Voldemort has obtained the management authority of Slytherin. Third, the basilisk is the implementer and bears most of the attacks. I see. Just when Aiden was chatting with the system, Dumbledore stood up and began his blessing. Welcome to Hogwarts. Welcome to the new school year. Before we begin the dinner, I would like to say a few words. Here is what I want to say, idiot. Scum. Crybaby. Screw. Thank you. After saying this, Dumbledore waved his hand and all kinds of food appeared on the table, roast beef, roast chicken, pork, lamb, sausages, bacon, and steak, as well as boiled tomatoes, roast sweet potatoes, French fries, Yorkshire puddings, pears, carrot broth, ketchup, and mint-flavored hard candies. Oh, he looks a little crazy, doesn't he? Penelope said. Indeed. Aiden smiled and threw himself into the business of destroying the delicious food. When everyone was enjoying the delicious food on the table, ghosts broke in and Headless Nick performed the separation spell at the Gryffindor table. The ghost lady of Ravenclaw also floated onto the long table and observed the new little wizard. This is Ms. Grey, Penelope introduced. Hello Ms. Grey. Aiden greeted her. Humph. Ms. Grey saw Aiden's face, turned her head and floated away. Did I offend her in some way? Aiden asked puzzled. Who knows? Penelope replied. After eating and drinking, Dumbledore spoke again. Now that everyone has finished eating, I will now make a few announcements for the start of the school year. No entry to the Forbidden Forest. Our caretaker, Mr. Filch, asked me to remind you that no magic is allowed in the corridors between classes. The Quidditch test will be held in the second week. Students who wish to participate on behalf of their residents should go to Madame Hooch to register. Finally, I must warn you. If you don't want to die miserably, don't go to the third floor corridor on your right within this year. Now, let's sing the school song together. The chorus at Hogwarts was indeed torture, at least Aiden couldn't stand it. He sang it with a hum, and Dumbledore was still moved by the music. After the chorus ended, everyone left in an orderly manner. The class leader Eleanor Hawthorne led the little wizards to climb up to the 5th floor and came to the famous attraction, the Eaglehead Door Knocker. It was a pity that there was no camera, otherwise Aiden would have taken a few photos to check in. Standing before the Eaglehead Door Knocker, Eleanor Hawthorne introduced to the young wizards, "This is our Ravenclaw dormitory. It is different from the other two colleges, which can be opened with a password. The door knocker will ask you a question, and only those who answer correctly can enter. If you can't answer, I'm afraid you will have to wait outside for others. This is a unique romance of Ravenclaw. Anyone can answer the door knocker's question. Ms. Rowena Ravenclaw welcomes all intelligent people to visit Ravenclaw. Who wants to come and try now? Looking at the little wizards around him, it seemed that no one was going to go up, but Aiden still had to support Eleanor Hawthorne, so he walked out of the crowd. When it came to the eagle-head door knocker, it asked, "What is the most precious thing, but also the most terrifying thing after getting it?" Aiden thought for a moment and answered, "Life." Eagle-head door knocker, that makes sense. The door leading to the lounge was opened. So you don't have a correct answer either. Aiden silently complained about the eagle-head door knocker and walked into the Ravenclaw common room. The decoration of the Ravenclaw common room is full of wisdom and mystery. The ceiling of the room is high and inlaid with twinkling stars, as if you are under the starry sky. The walls are covered with dark green silk cloth, embroidered with golden runes and patterns, emitting a mysterious light. The surrounding bookshelves were filled with heavy books covering all manner of magical subjects and occult lore, and there were comfortable armchairs by the windows, which offered a great view of Hogwarts. You can take the books from the surrounding shelves at will, but remember not to damage the books, and remember to return them. Remember what Ms. Rowena said, "We are ravens, and we greedily thirst for knowledge." Eleanor Hawthorne walked to the front and said to the little wizard, "Okay, you can go to your dormitories by yourselves. Your luggage has been delivered to your dormitories by the house elves. Finally, I wish you all a happy study and life." After saying goodbye to Eleanor, Aiden came to his dormitory, where his 3 roommates were already packing their belongings. Aiden walked in and saw his 3 roommates. He knew their names instantly, but he pretended not to know and walked up to introduce himself. "Hi, I'm Aiden Pruitt. Edmund Lestrange, I know your name." The boy sitting on the bed introduced. "Ethan Beckett, nice to meet you." "Oliver Graves. Lestrange, is that it?" Aiden said to Edmund, with a probing look and using hints. "Oh, yes, but my father was expelled from the family because he opposed them. After the liquidation, our family became the final heir of Lestrange." Edmund said casually. "You guys, don't just talk about me. I am the last heir of the Pruitt family." Aiden got a satisfactory answer, so he introduced himself. Another one of the Sacred 28. Edmund raised an eyebrow. At this time Ethan spoke up, "My father is a muggle and my mother is a wizard. When I received the notice, my father was terrified. I come from the muggle world, and my parents are not wizards," Oliver finally spoke. After a round of greetings, Aiden felt that it was getting late and suggested taking a rest. The dormitory soon became quiet. Chapter 18, Rada Speaks and the Transfiguration Class. Last night's rain covered Hogwarts with a layer of fog. The sunlight shining through the mist produced a Tyndall effect, adding a touch of fantasy to Hogwarts in the early morning. Aiden got up early. The excitement of arriving at Hogwarts seemed to have exhausted his roommates, who were all still in a sweet dream. Rawdon noticed Aiden's movement and ran over, stretching beside Aiden. Outside the window, the sun gently caresses the earth with its warm but not dazzling light. The air is filled with a faint warmth, making people feel comfortable and peaceful, as if the whole world is wrapped in a layer of soft golden gauze, neither too warm nor too warm. It was a rare good day in England, and there were still 2 hours before the morning transfiguration class, so Aiden decided to go out for a walk with the cat. Strolling beside the Black Lake, the breeze blowing through the woods brought fresh air. Lotta was playing happily on the grass, and Aiden was leaning under a tree reading a book. The lake, the cat, and the little wizard reading a book formed a beautiful scene, but the thing that spoiled the scenery was that although Aiden seemed to be reading a book, he was actually chatting with the system. "System, how did Professor McGonagall discover that I cast a spell last night?" "Ding, wizards themselves do not generate magic power. They use the magic power of the world. It is not surprising that adult wizards' senses are immersed in the flow of magic power for many years, so it is not surprising that they have certain abilities. So, will wizards develop organs that store magic power?" "Ding, yes. Actually, the magicization of a single organ in the body is a sign of a wizard's adulthood. This process is completed through systematic learning of knowledge and spellcasting skills. They switch from using the magic power of the world to cast spells with their own magic power combined with the magic power of the world. This process reduces the power of the spell and requires the cooperation of a wand, but it greatly increases the safety of the wizard's spell casting. Ding! When wizards have accumulated a huge amount of knowledge and spellcasting experience, their magical organs will increase and form a set of interconnected systems. This is also a sign that they have become masters in their corresponding fields. What about me? Taking a magic potion to gain extraordinary powers also counts as organ magicization. Ding! The process is similar, but the host first completed the magicization of the organs through a shortcut, and then taught himself magic to make up for the knowledge. The only thing he lacks now is spellcasting experience. Just as Aiden was concentrating on talking to the system, Radha, who had had enough fun, ran back. Seeing Aiden in a daze, a human-like teasing appeared on the cat's face. "Hey, shit shoveler, I've had enough fun, it's time to go home, stop staring blankly, you're just not doing anything important all day long." Aiden, who was distracted, was startled when he heard the long-lost Chinese language and looked down at Radha. "Good fellow, Lada, you can speak now? You smell like Dongbei Desert, you really are from that place." Aiden picked up Lada helplessly and smoothed her fur. "Of course not. It's a purebred northeastern leopard cat that speaks both Chinese and English." Radha yawned. "Okay, you're awesome." Aiden carried Radha and walked back to the castle. When he returned to the dormitory, several roommates had also gotten up. Aiden distributed the breakfast he brought back and the copied class schedule to them. "Godfather! Stop messing around, hurry up, don't be late for class." After eating and drinking, the four of them walked through the corridor and came to the stairs. There were a total of 142 staircases in Hogwarts, some of which were spacious and clean. Some were narrow and wobbly, some would lead to a different place on a certain Friday, and some had disappearing staircases that forced you to jump to get up. After a lot of trouble, Aiden finally arrived at the Transfiguration classroom. There were not many little wizards in the classroom, but there was a tabby cat sitting on the podium in the middle of the classroom. After exchanging a glance with the tabby cat, Aiden hurriedly pulled his roommate to find a place to sit down. "Aiden, why are you in such a hurry? Professor McGonagall hasn't arrived yet." Oliver, who knew very little about the wizarding world, did not understand at the moment that the word danger was already looming over his head. Aiden looked at Edmund, then glanced at the tabby cat, and Edmund quickly understood. "Okay, prepare for the class first, or you might fall behind in class." Edmund came out to smooth things over. So a few of them took out their books, and other little wizards also entered the classroom one after another. As the class time was getting closer, Ron and Harry were going to be late, and Aiden mourned for them in his heart. Finally, Harry and Ron broke into the classroom, and Professor McGonagall demonstrated her animagus skills to everyone and launched a map-changing threat. "A keen observation, Mr. Pruitt." She then gave everyone a lecture. "Transfiguration is arguably one of the most complex and dangerous spells you will learn at Hogwarts. Anyone who wants to mess up my class can get out right now and never come back." Then she turned the table into a pig and back again. Everyone was amazed by her unique skills and wanted to try it. After explaining a long paragraph of theory, Professor McGonagall gave each person a match and said, "Your task today is to turn this match into a needle." When Aiden got the match, he looked at it and turned it into a needle without even using his wand. "Excellent wandless spellcasting, Mr. Pruitt. I will give Ravenclaw 10 points, but since you have made so much progress ahead of the others, there will be no chance next time." Sure enough, Professor McGonagall was very fair, and Aiden Lu's move also aroused the interest of other young wizards. Seamus of Gryffindor waved his wand vigorously, successfully causing an explosion, which also blackened Neville's face. Professor McGonagall had no choice but to go over and help clean up. As Professor McGonagall left, Edmund, Ethan, and Oliver gathered around. "How did you do it?" Oliver asked on behalf of the other two. "Faith, my friend, believing is your magic." Aiden made a bad joke, but unfortunately no one followed it. Ding, ha! A certain gem smiled without saying anything. "Oh, this is too difficult. Matches are made of wood and needles are made of metal. How can these two things be transformed into each other?" Obviously, Oliver, who came from the scientific world, thought this was unscientific. "Then look at me." Aiden looked into Oliver's eyes, stretched out his right hand and snapped his fingers, giving Oliver a hint. "Trying now," Aiden said. Oliver waved his wand, and the heads of the matches turned silver and pointed. Wow, how did you do this? It wasn't possible just now. Oliver came to his senses and immediately rejected the suggestion. It's really unnatural to modify common sense. Aiden thought, and then answered Oliver's question. I just asked you to temporarily forget the texture of the match and the needle and believe that they are the same kind of things. Edmund and Ethan on the side also wanted to try it, and Aiden gave them each a hint. Soon, the matches between the two also changed. Well, look at that, Miss Granger's matches have changed, too. Professor McGonagall finally found someone to show her off and held up Hermione's matches for everyone to see. 5 points to Gryffindor. Professor McGonagall gave the points generously. Unfortunately, Professor McGonagall did not return to see Aiden and his group, causing Ravenclaw to lose the opportunity to gain extra points. Chapter 19. Transfiguration and Night Out. The Transfiguration class was over. Before the class ended, Professor McGonagall left a 2-foot-long essay assignment for the little wizards, and the little wizards crowded out of the classroom. Edmund, Ethan, Oliver, go back first. I have something to ask Professor McGonagall. After saying goodbye to his roommate, Aiden went to Professor McGonagall's office and knocked on the door. Come in. Professor McGonagall's voice came from behind the door. Hello, Professor. I have some questions to ask you. Aiden walked into the office. Okay, Mr. Pruitt, sit down and talk slowly. That's right, Professor. I've been practicing transforming objects into animals recently. I can roughly complete the transformation of the animal's appearance, but the animal still can't move on its own, so I would like to ask you for advice. Well, Mr. Pruitt, it seems that you are learning too fast. Have you completed the transformation of objects of poor quality? Professor McGonagall did not rush to answer, but asked Aiden a question in return. Yes, Professor. Aiden replied confidently. Well, first try to turn this matchbox into a bed. Aiden put the matchbox on the ground, took out his wand and waved it. The matchbox expanded and turned into a large bed with carved patterns. That's right, Mr. Pruitt. Go on to tell us about the mouse turning into a cup. Professor McGonagall made a new request. Aiden waved his wand again, completing the transformation. Perfect metamorphosis, and finally, Mr. Pruitt, turn this book into a crow. Aiden took the book and waved his wand to turn it into a crow, but the crow just stood on the table stupidly, not at all as smart as the pig that Professor McGonagall had conjured up. After looking at Aiden's transfiguration creation for a while, Professor McGonagall said with some pleasure, Mr. Pruitt, I can't tell that you are the kind of person with a strong desire for control, and it seems that you have already made some explorations in the spiritual field. After hearing this, Aiden knew that Professor McGonagall had seen something and was worthy of being a big name in the academic world, so he admitted it with a wry smile. Mr. Pruitt, I agree with you that your magic is your belief. Magic transforms the world according to our will, and magic can be said to be a projection of the mind to some extent. Among them, transfiguration is the magic that is closest to the mind, so I told you in class that it is dangerous. And your problem, Mr. Pruitt, is not a problem with spellcasting, but that you have too much control over yourself. You are even controlling your own mind, so the transformed crow has become your puppet instead of a spiritual creation. Aiden thought for a while and said, I've learned something. Mr. Pruitt, I hope you remember that magic is emotional. It is our emotion. Don't restrain it. Also, the first-year courses are no longer suitable for you. I recommend you to read The Nature of Transfiguration and Advanced Transfiguration Guide. This will bring you new gains. Thank you, Professor. After saying that, Aiden walked out of Professor McGonagall's office. After saying goodbye to Professor McGonagall, Aiden went to the library, which was located on the second floor of the castle. It was a huge and ancient library with thousands of books and thousands of bookshelves. The interior of the library is intricately laid out with many narrow passages, making exploration both exciting and challenging. The librarian is Mrs. Irma Pants, who is responsible for maintaining order and cleanliness in the library. Aiden found 2 books recommended by Professor McGonagall on the bookshelf, flipped through them, and took out parchment and a quill, ready to complete Professor McGonagall's homework. After reading the book recommended by Professor McGonagall, I finished my thesis. I learned from the book that the barriers I had set up in my mind had become an obstacle to my spellcasting. So he got up and left the library, ready to find a place to practice transfiguration. But on the way, they met Edmund and his friends, who took them to visit the castle, so they had to abandon their plan. At night, when curfew arrived, Aiden got dressed, took his books, and prepared to go out. "Aiden, you are actually planning to go out for a night walk?" Edmund exclaimed in surprise. "Yeah, I'm going to find a place to practice magic," Aiden explained calmly. "Ah, you actually worked hard on your own, why don't you take us with you?" Ethan said. Yeah, Oliver chimed in. "No, you don't know the disillusionment charm. Are you going together to clear out Ravenclaw's score pool?" Aiden refused decisively. "Oh, what a pity. However, you can first teach yourself the disillusionment charm. You can find this spell in the Ravenclaw library. If you learn it, I will take you to a good place next time," Aiden said with a smile, and while speaking he had already arranged the next study plan for these three poor dual sparring partners. After saying that, Aiden pushed open the dormitory door and prepared to go out for a night out. In the corridor on the 4th floor, Aiden had just walked a short distance out of the eagle-head door knocker when he felt a sense of being watched. "Didn't I use the disillusionment charm? Why do I feel like someone is looking at me?" Aiden thought to himself. In order to figure out who was peeping, Aiden used his ability to scan the surroundings. The fluctuation of power hit the mental barrier at the corner and bounced back. Aiden also determined who the person was. There were not many people in Hogwarts who had this level of mind. "Good evening, Professor Dumbledore." Aiden took the initiative and pointed out the old headmaster who was hiding in the dark. "Oh, good evening, Aiden. According to school rules, the little wizard should go to bed at this time." Dumbledore kicked the ball back skillfully. "Old B, do you think I'm a child?" The little wizard thought to himself, but said something different. "But Professor, the school rules will not prevent diligent little wizards from practicing magic, right?" "Well, that's true. Then let's just pretend that we have never met each other." The old bee proposed a deal. "Okay, Professor." Aiden accepted decisively. After exchanging pleasantries with Dumbledore, Aiden made his way to the 8th floor of Hogwarts Castle, near the tapestry of the troll beating Barnabas with a club. The Room of Requirement, also known as the Coming and Going Room, is the most precious treasure left to us by Ms. Rowena. It was such a pity that it was burned by those trolls later. Aiden couldn't help but exclaim in admiration as he looked at the magic notes in front of him. "Well, let me try, go back and forth 3 times, and think of a place to practice magic." Aiden completed the summoning of the Room of Requirement, and a door appeared on the opposite side of the tapestry. Pushing open the door, the walls around gradually lost their original color and were covered with dark green velvet. The ground was covered with smooth wooden floors. These floors were strong and elastic, very suitable for practicing various magic. In the middle of the house is a simulated shooting range with various moving targets, from simple dartboards to complex models of magical creatures, all of which are used to test the accuracy and power of spells. On the other side, a huge mirror reflects the entire practice room. The edge of the mirror is decorated with exquisite silver vine patterns. It is not just an ordinary mirror, but also a magic reflector that can help observe and correct spellcasting movements. Chapter 20. Magic Practice and End of Week 1. Shattered to pieces, shattered into pieces, sand and rocks flying, fainting, thunderbolt explosion, powerful explosion. In the Room of Requirement, Aiden waved his wand and spells flew out from the tip of his wand, hitting the targets in the Room of Requirement and scattering fragments all over the floor. "Wow, casting spells is so smooth with the wand amplification. I feel super strong and can fight Dumbledore alone." Aiden made an arrogant declaration. Ding, hi, expansion. Alas, the system has changed. It is no longer the same praise system as before. Aiden started to act up. Ding, magic combat is not for the host to throw bricks with such force. I would like to remind the host that it is best not to step into the battlefield with a childish mentality. The system said helplessly. Okay, our dean is the duel champion, so you can learn from him when the time comes." Aiden knew what the system meant and soothed it. After practicing offensive magic, Aiden began practicing defensive magic. Numerous obstacles, shock absorber, armor protector, immovable, enemy driven away. Finally, the system, unable to bear it any longer, chose to speak. Ding, in fact, the host has accumulated enough knowledge of spells to try to create his own magic. Homemade. Ding, yes, the principle of the spell is not complicated. To put it simply, magic rewrites reality under the drive of the wizard's will. The host has completed the magicization of his organs, has accumulated corresponding theoretical knowledge, and has explored his mind far beyond that of ordinary people. He has reached the threshold of creating his own spell. Then I'll try it now. Aiden was ready to die. Ding, host, please put your own safety first. There are so many masters in Hogwarts, why don't you ask for their advice? Ah, system, you really act like an old woman. And it was you who said I could create my own, and it was you who told me to find a professor. Ding, the two are not in conflict. Time passed slowly as Aiden chatted with the system. It's late, time to go back and rest. After casting the disillusionment charm, Aiden returned to the dormitory. His roommates were already fast asleep, and the constant snoring made the tired Aiden a little annoyed. So Aiden cast a sleeping spell on each of them, and the dormitory became quiet, and Aiden soon joined them. The next afternoon, Aiden and his 3 companions quickly shuttled through the corridor. Hurry up, Edmund. You're going to be late. This is the dean's class. Aiden turned around and shouted to the others. Thanks to last night's night out, Aiden actually slept until the afternoon. Since he forgot to remove the curse for his roommates, they also did not wake up. Fortunately, I don't have classes in the morning, but unfortunately, I'm almost late for class in the afternoon. Fortunately, the 4 of them arrived at the classroom on time, and Professor Flitwick did not make things difficult for them, but only reminded them to arrive earlier next time. Long live the Dean! Ravenclaw took charms classes in the first year together with Slytherin. The relationship between the 2 houses was not very bad and no conflicts occurred. Professor Flitwick was a little short. He stood on a pile of textbooks to teach. Since it was the first class, he spent most of the time explaining how wizards should hold their wands when casting spells, and corrected the young wizards' wrong habits when holding their wands. After class, Aiden found Professor Flitwick, showed him his level of spell skills, and said that he wanted to try to create his own spells. Professor Flitwick was amazed by Aiden's attainments in spells, so he took out his own spell research notes and gave them to Aiden, asking him to remember the knowledge in the notes. At the same time, he also warned Aiden not to conduct spell experiments in private, and promised to take time out every Friday to guide Aiden in developing spells. On Wednesday, in the defense against the dark arts class, Quirrell still pretended to stutter and finished the lesson verbatim. I really don't know how someone who is so afraid of vampires that he has to marinate himself in garlic became the professor of our defense against the dark arts class. Oliver complained. That's right. Edmund and Ethan also agreed. Aiden, who was familiar with the plot, did not expose Quirrell, but Aiden also found that Quirrell's life seemed to be like a candle in the wind, crumbling. I wonder how long he can last. Aiden was a little curious. On Thursday, Professor Sprout, the herbology class, was a short witch with flowing grey hair and a thick hat covered in patches. In the first herbal medicine class, she led the little wizards in theoretical study, took out some plants for the little wizards to identify, and also conducted safety education. Aiden was not very good at the herbology class and finished the class in a mediocre manner. The history of magic class in the afternoon was even more important. The ghost professor could be said to be a part of history himself, but the sound of his lectures was like an eternal echo, bringing the souls of the young wizards back to the distant past. Even the top students of Ravenclaw could not withstand it, but fortunately Aiden did. Professor Bin's class is too hypnotic, Ethan complained. In fact, looking through the history of wizards, we can conclude that the only lesson we have learned from history is that we have not learned any lessons from history. Aiden also complained. Who says it isn't true? The goblins rebelled in the past, but now they still control the wizards' economy. In my opinion, these greedy creatures should be wiped out. Edmund also complained. I didn't realize you had quite the talent as an artist. Have you considered the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna? Oliver said with a smile. This caused Ethan and Aiden to laugh, leaving only Edmund who couldn't read the atmosphere. On Friday, Ravenclaw had her first potions class with Hufflepuff. In the afternoon, in the basement of the potions class, Professor Snape walked with the wind. He walked to the podium in the classroom, glanced around, and began to lecture. You are here to learn the fine art of medicine making, and since there are some fools here who are just waving magic wands around, many of you don't quite believe that it is magic. I don't expect you to truly understand the beauty of pharmaceutical technology. I can teach you how to can your reputation, how to brew glory, and even prevent death, as long as you don't become as stupid as the group of idiots I taught before. Ding, host. The system spoke. System. Ding, the system has discovered something interesting. Severus Snape has multiple systems of magical organs. One set is his eyes, brain, and hands, and the other is his digestive system. 2 sets. Aiden exclaimed in his mind. Ding, this means that he is not only a master of potions, but also has outstanding attainments in the field of spells. During the conversation, Snape had completed the theoretical teaching and began to guide the young wizards in brewing potions. Fortunately, nothing went wrong, except that Aiden was given plenty of care while he was brewing the potion. Aiden brewed the potion, put it in a glass bottle and gave it to Snape. Snape shook the bottle, sniffed it, and said, "Humph, just following the script." After class, he threw a notebook to Aiden and said, "Our genius Mr. Pruitt, I will give you a week to write down this notebook. Return it to me when the time is up. If you don't wait, you know what will happen." Aiden's inner thoughts. Did the old bee ask you to pay attention to me? Without thinking too much, Aiden put away the notebook. Just kidding, this is the masterpiece of the Half-Blood Prince, and Aiden has been fascinated by it for a long time. A week passed quickly in happy study, and Aiden gradually adapted to life in Hogwarts. Chapter 21, Initial Creation and Runes. On Friday night, Aiden came to Professor Flitwick's office as scheduled. "Welcome, Mr. Pruitt, you've brought a lot of points to Ravenclaw this week. Pumpkin juice or tea?" Professor Flitwick greeted with a smile. "Thank you for taking the time to mentor me, Professor," Aiden responded. "Okay, I won't waste any more polite words, Aiden. I already have a general idea of your level. Regarding the creation of spells, I want to hear your own ideas." "Okay, Professor. I'm going to start with removing the spell. Compared to the attack spell that causes damage and the defense spell that creates a protective shield, removing the spell is safer." "Will it stop the spell immediately or will it end all the spells?" asked Professor Flitwick. "Professor, I think these 2 spells have great development prospects. Obviously, the instant stop spell can directly affect the spell itself, but the end of all spells must be expressed in the form of energy. I want to try to integrate the advantages of the 2 spells." "That's a good idea, Aiden. Finite comes from the Latin word finitus, which means limit, restrict. Incant means to cast a spell. And the end of all spells is finite. Now, try using the stop spell gesture and the end of all spells spell." Professor Flitwick smiled wickedly. This smirk did not escape Aiden's observation, and he smiled bitterly in his heart. "It's over, the dean is going to persecute me." Aiden raised his wand and cast the spell as Professor Flitwick had requested. All curses come to an end. There was a flash of fire in front of the wand, there was a bang sound, and Aiden was blown away by the strong airflow. "Amazing magic power, Aiden. It seems that the magic power you can mobilize is comparable to that of an adult wizard. I believe that you, who have completed the magic transformation of your organs, understand what I am talking about." Professor Flitwick waved his wand and lifted Aiden up from the ground. "Yes, Professor. How does it feel?" Professor Flitwick asked. "It is a conflict, Professor. The act of casting a spell is the key to directing magic power to the target, but the spell does not match this process." Aiden shook his head and looked at Professor Flitwick, waiting for his next answer. "Acute perception, Aiden. Now that some spells can be cast without a wand, you must have a certain perception of the spell casting process. Tell me what you think." Professor Flitwick patiently advised and did not give a direct answer. "Yes, Professor. I can only cast spells without a wand if I am very proficient in them. Although I did not use a wand during the casting process, I simulated the complete casting process in my mind." "That's right, Aiden. This is the secret of wandless spell casting. We didn't skip the casting process. We just hid it in our consciousness. However, the speed of consciousness is so fast that those wizards who don't know the key always think that we skipped the casting process." Professor Flitwick waved his wand happily and continued. "The mismatch between the casting action and the spell is the key to your integration failure. The missing link for you to create a spell is the knowledge of the spell. So, I should learn runes next? Aiden asked. It seems that you already have a clear direction, so let's stop here for today's teaching. Professor Flitwick said. Professor, you could have told me directly, but you insisted on letting me get blown up again. Aiden muttered as he gradually became familiar with Professor Flitwick. Geniuses have to be allowed to hit walls. This is one of the few hobbies that educators have. Professor Flitwick winked at Aiden. Are you Dumbledore? Aiden hugged his elbows. Aiden had no choice but to say goodbye to Professor Flitwick and leave his office. The next day, Aiden went to the library to look for rune books. On the way, he heard the young wizards discussing Gryffindor's youngest seeker. On the way, I met the 3 people from the dormitory. Aiden, you're here. Edmund and the others caught up and greeted him. Have you heard, Aiden? Harry Potter has been made the Gryffindor Seeker, making him the youngest seeker in the history of Hogwarts. Oliver said excitedly. Oh, why are you so interested in Quidditch? Aiden asked in confusion. We have similar sports in the Muggle world, but flying in the sky and hitting people, no, playing ball, is so interesting. Oliver said excitedly. That's right, Quidditch is so interesting. Aiden, you don't dislike it just because you're not good at flying, do you? Ethan came up and echoed. None of your business. I'm going to the library to find some information. Aiden shook his head and ended the subject. After the 4 of them parted, Aiden came to the library to look for the books he needed. Madame Pants glanced at Aiden through the mirror, but since Aiden was a frequent visitor, she quickly looked away. Fortunately, rune-related books were not stored in the restricted area, and Aiden quickly found the books he needed. Runes, From Entry to Departure. Aiden was attracted by the title of the book. Wow, who wrote this book? I want to read it carefully. I took the book and went to the desk in the library to read. As he turned the pages, the preface written by the author caught Aiden's attention. Runes are magical, there is no doubt about that. Many modern wizards simply regard them as an ancient font. I don't know if there are trolls in their heads. Unfortunately, the inheritance of runes encountered a problem, that is, it is difficult to preserve paper materials for inheritance. The correct writing method has magical powers, which can turn the textbook itself into a bomb. Although the wrong way of writing can convey these words, it is just like what the trolls believe, and it has become an ordinary text symbol, losing its meaning as magic. Therefore, the true inheritance of runes can only be passed down by the master teaching the apprentice, and this book aims to introduce various characters and their meanings, and does not involve magical writing. It is recommended that those who do not have talent give up the study of runes. Oh, it seems that this boss is a real person, and the preface is good enough to dissuade people from reading. Aiden thought, and finished reading the preface to see who wrote this book. A closer look, Nicholas Flamel, 1644. Well, this guy also had a hot temper when he was young, although I don't know if over 300 years old is considered young. Aiden thought to himself, put the book away, and asked Madame Pants to borrow it. On the other hand, Harry, who has just joined the Gryffindor Quidditch team, seems to be in trouble. Chapter 22. Duel Invitation and Roleplay. Ever since Harry stood out in the flying class, the grudge between him and Draco seemed to be getting deeper and deeper, but young Harry did not regret it. On the contrary, he was proud because he defeated Slytherin for Gryffindor. Draco, feeling humiliated, had been thinking of ways to take revenge on Harry. One day, Draco was strolling with 2 followers, walking with a breeze and looking very impressive. Unfortunately, in the corridor, he saw the guy he hated the most, Harry. Draco looked at Potter's disgusting expression and immediately came up with an idea. Good luck, Potter, I wasn't expelled last time. It's a pity that I didn't see you take the train back to your Muggle world. You were lucky that you didn't break your neck last time. How dare you, little Death Eater, talk nonsense here. Do you want a beating? Potter fell into the trap and said what Draco wanted to hear most. I'm always happy to help. Draco said, Wizards duel tonight at 12 o'clock, would you like to join us? Yes. Ron agreed on Harry's behalf. I'll be his substitute. Who's your substitute? Draco thought for a moment and said, Crabbe is my replacement. See you in the souvenir room, which is often unlocked. Wait, in order to prevent you Slytherins from cheating, we need a referee. After years of being influenced by Aiden, Ron finally learned his lesson and put forward new requirements. Aiden was relieved. Okay, then how about letting Aiden from Ravenclaw be the referee? You guys are very familiar with him, right? Draco smiled wickedly. You said it, don't go back on your word, Harry added hastily. It's a deal. After Draco left, Ron and Harry looked at each other in silence. What is a wizard's duel and what are substitutes? Asked Harry. Oh, the so-called substitute is the person who takes over after you die. Usually, only real wizard duels will result in death. As for you and Malfoy, you will probably fight with your fists. Besides, there is Aiden, who is the best little wizard I have ever seen. Ron answered Harry nonchalantly, and a voice came from the side. Excuse me. The two looked up and saw that it was Hermione. Can't we even have a quiet dinner? Said Ron. Hermione ignored him and said to Harry, I just heard you and Malfoy talking. I wish you hadn't heard that, Ron muttered. You can't do this. Night outings are against school rules and you will lose a lot of points. Hermione said anxiously. It's none of my business, said Harry. Goodbye, said Ron. In the evening, Ron and Harry were waiting for Aiden in the corridor leading to the library. They knew that Aiden, who had eaten and drunk his fill, would definitely come here. Ah, there he comes, Ron said to Harry. The two of them hurriedly surrounded him. Aiden. Seeing his dear cousin and his completely unguarded brain, Aiden knew his thoughts and what had happened without even using legilimency. Okay, I get it. You want me to be the referee? What's the price, Ron? Aiden looked at Ron and Harry, his pair of beautiful heterochromatic eyes reaching people's hearts. I'll treat you to some dessert from B. George and Fred have started a purchasing agency business. Rich man Harry spoke decisively. Aiden looked at the two and smiled, okay. Yeah. After getting Aiden's promise, the two ran away quickly and went back to prepare for the duel. Aiden, you can't. Hermione came out from behind a pillar, and it seemed that she had been keeping an eye on the two of them. Oh, Hermione, long time no see. We haven't had a chat like this for a long time since the sorting. Aiden interrupted. Aiden, you know that's not the point. You can't follow them and break school rules. Hermione said. Hermione, sometimes I don't think you're a Gryffindor. You care too much about the so-called school rules. I guess you have a hard time in Gryffindor, don't you? Aiden looked at Hermione and hinted. Hermione felt that Aiden's gaze was very scorching, so she relaxed her guard and began to talk to Aiden. Yes, I clearly followed the school rules and I was clearly doing this for their own good, but Parvati and Lavender both distanced themselves from me, and the other girls stopped talking to me. Aiden started walking and waved to Hermione, who followed him. But Hermione, you also know how unpleasant it feels to be preached to. Have your parents ever preached to you since you were a child? How do you feel about it yourself? Aiden used his ability to make his voice softer. My parents did that for my own good, Hermione said stubbornly. But we are still young, and it is our privilege to make some harmless mistakes, Aiden said with a smile. Will their breaking of school rules hurt others, or cause damage to Hogwarts? No. Hermione's voice sounded a little depressed. Then try to tolerate them, let them make mistakes as much as they want, and they will naturally turn back when they hit a wall. Also, leaving room for each other is the way to make friends. Aiden led Hermione and they arrived at the gate of Gryffindor unknowingly. I'll try, and you really act like an old man. Hermione stuck out her tongue at Aiden and gave the command to enter the common room. Aiden looked at Hermione kindly as she left, and was delighted to see his role-playing progress increase. Young kids are always full of troubles, aren't they, Aiden? A voice came from behind Aiden. But don't count on young people to resolve the problem on their own. The experience of our predecessors can help us avoid many detours, Professor Dumbledore. Aiden knew who was coming without even turning his head. It's a beautiful night, would you like to take a walk together? Dumbledore invited. I can't ask for it. As night falls, Hogwarts Castle loses the hustle and bustle of the day and is covered with a veil of tranquility and mystery. The moonlight shines through the tall pointed windows and sprinkles on the winding stone corridors, forming mottled light and shadows. An old man and a child were walking in the castle. Aiden, you may have noticed that Harry has had a rough life and he will have to bear a great burden in the future. This is all my fault. Can you please help me take care of Harry? Professor, there is no need for that. Harry is my good friend. If the time comes, I will not stand by and watch him die. Not to mention that my silly cousin has taken the initiative to get involved. Then I feel much more relieved. Dumbledore breathed a sigh of relief. So, Professor, what's the price? Didn't you just say he was your good friend? He is him, and you are you. You are the chief magician of the Wizengamot. You wouldn't want to take advantage of a little wizard like me for free, would you? Aiden said with a sly smile. Well, how could that be? I heard from Flitwick that you were going to create your own spell. Did you run into trouble with runes? How about I teach you runes? No problem. Harry is my beloved friend. I will take good care of him. Ding, hi. System, shut up. Chapter 23, The Pigeon, the Three-Headed Dog, and the Gryffindor Common Room. At night, after curfew, Hogwarts fell into silence. Aiden held Rada and walked out of the Ravenclaw Common Room. On the other side, in the Gryffindor Common Room, Harry and Ron were also preparing to head to the souvenir exhibition room under the cover of night. I suggest you don't go. Hermione tried to dissuade him. After Aiden's advice, Hermione decided to slightly change the way she spoke, although it had little effect. We have promised Malfoy that wizard duels are sacred. Seeing that Hermione was no longer arrogant, Ron softened his tone. Well, I'll go with you, too. Whatever you want, said Harry. The three of them took advantage of the night, walked through the moving stairs, and came to the door of the souvenir exhibition room. At this moment, a sound of footsteps came from behind Harry and others, and the three of them looked back nervously. In the darkness, a pair of vertical pupils of different colors slowly emerged, as if some kind of large predator was staring at the three people. Ron saw familiar eyes and shouted happily, Aiden, we are here. Hearing Ron's call, Aiden quickened his pace and arrived at the gate. Aren't you going in? Aiden asked. I was afraid they were ambushing us in there, so I was waiting for you, said Harry. Good man, are you planning to push me up to block the bullets? Aiden teased Harry. We trust you. Ron jumped out to smooth things over. Okay, let's go. After saying that, Aiden pushed open the door of the souvenir exhibition room and walked into the souvenir exhibition room first. Walking into the souvenir exhibition room, there is a series of carefully designed display cabinets in the center of the room. Each one is made of fine walnut wood, with golden patterns inlaid on the edges, which looks elegant and noble. Rows of trophies are displayed there, telling visitors the legend of Hogwarts. There was no one in the spacious souvenir exhibition room. It was obvious that Malfoy had stood up the four people. Aiden, who already knew Malfoy's plan, did not warn him because he wanted his silly cousin to learn a lesson. Well, it looks like we've been fooled by Malfoy. Aiden looked at Ron and Harry jokingly. That's what I said, Hermione echoed. But you came along too. Ron retorted unwillingly. Well, it looks like we've been fooled, so let's go back. Harry made the final decision, and the few of them left the souvenir exhibition room. As they walked out the door, they ran into Filch's cat. It's Filch's cat, exclaimed Harry. Tie it up, Rada. Aiden gave the order decisively and pulled a few people towards the movable stairs. The moment he stepped onto the moving stairs, Aiden suddenly felt the fluctuation of magical power. Fuck, old bee. It's not Friday, why are the stairs moving? Hermione said. Never mind, the most important thing is to escape. Harry led the charge. Aiden had no choice but to follow. The four of them ran all the way to the end of the corridor on the third floor, and the sound of a cat's cry came from behind them. It's locked. Harry said anxiously. At this point, Aiden, who couldn't bear to watch any longer, said, maybe we shouldn't go in. But the panicked Hermione simply didn't listen to Aiden's advice. Get out of the way, alaho-hole. An unlocking charm unlocked the door, and Harry and Ron rushed in first. Hermione pulled up Aiden, who was still hesitating whether to use the disillusionment charm to escape, and rushed in. The door closed and Filch came to the third floor. The dim firelight illuminated the entire corridor. Filch looked for a while and then left. Inside the door, alaho open. Ron looked at Hermione. It's in the Standard Book of Spells, Chapter 7. Hermione raised her head proudly. Guys, you should see this, Harry, who was at the front, spoke up. With the help of the moonlight, the four people could clearly see the huge creature in front of them. It was an adult three-headed dog, as big as a small house. The three-headed dog was also awakened by the noisy people, yawned and opened his eyes. Finding that his territory was invaded, the three-headed dog whimpered intimidatingly. Ah! The three-headed dog was about to pounce, but Aiden stepped forward and used stun. The three-headed dog was frightened in an instant, as if it were facing a dragon, and took a few steps back. Unfortunately, the three-headed dog still did not give up its duty and looked at Aiden fiercely. Aiden's effort gave Harry and the other two time to react. They opened the door and quickly retreated. Leaving the forbidden area on the third floor, several people quickly walked towards the fourth floor. Ron walked in front, complaining as he walked, "Are they crazy to keep this monster in school? Are you blind? Can't you see that monster is guarding something?" Hermione said. "Guarding what?" Harry seemed to understand. As they were talking, they arrived at the gate of Gryffindor. "So, what's the password?" Aiden said. "Aiden? Why are you here?" Ron asked in surprise. "Filch is patrolling on the fifth floor. I can't go back." Aiden replied with a smile. However, this was a lie. Aiden simply wanted to visit the Gryffindor common room. Hermione stepped forward and spoke the password to the portrait, which slowly opened. Aiden followed them into the lounge. The walls of the Gryffindor common room are made of solid stone and are covered with photographs and portraits of successive Gryffindor students. In the center of the room is a spacious circular area centered around a warm fireplace, where flames dance around, emitting an orange-red glow that brings a warm atmosphere to the entire lounge. Several soft sofas and comfortable armchairs are arranged around the fireplace, covered in deep red and gold fabrics. An exquisite chandelier hangs from the ceiling, and the lampshade is decorated with gold wire and rubies. When night falls, the chandelier will emit soft light, illuminating the entire lounge. The floor was covered with a thick carpet with a lion and the Gryffindor emblem on it, which felt very comfortable to step on. In the lounge, Percy was sitting on the sofa writing a letter. When he saw a few people coming in, Percy spoke up, "You guys are going out for a night tour?" "Yes, Senior Percy, please listen to our explanation." Hermione wanted to argue. "Forget it, I'm not a prefect, nor a professor. Go and have a rest, and remember not to break the school rules next time." Then he saw Aiden following the three people and asked in surprise, "Aiden, why are you here? Come and visit Gryffindor Tower, and see if you can find any treasures that the headmaster of Gryffindor left for you. Don't even think about it." Percy said with a smile. "It's a good opportunity for you to come here and do me a favor. I'm going to stay here tonight. If you pretend you didn't see me, I'll agree to your request." Aiden made the request. "Okay. Please take this letter to Penelope Clearwater of your academy. I have some magic questions I want to ask her." Percy wrapped up the envelope he had written and handed it to Aiden. "Don't open it and look at it. I'm under a spell," Percy threatened. "Okay." Aiden raised an eyebrow and glanced at Percy. And just like that, the dirty deal was done. "Aiden, where are you going to sleep?" Percy asked. "I'll just stay in the common room for the night," Aiden said. "Okay, go to bed early." After saying that, Percy also stood up and walked towards his room. Aiden used transfiguration to conjure up bedding and pillows, planning to sleep in the Gryffindor common room for the night. Chapter 24, Another Invitation and Runes. The next morning, George and Fred prepared to go to Hogsmeade to purchase goods. An unknown sponsor placed a large order with them. The two walked through the stairs to the common room and found Aiden sleeping there. "Look who we found." George looked at Fred and gave him a sly grin. "Isn't this our dear brother, Aiden?" Fred also gave a knowing smile. The two men took out their wands, conjured feathers, and approached Aiden with wicked smiles. "Well, Lotta, stop it, let me sleep for a while." Aiden muttered in his sleep. At this time, the sky was gradually getting brighter, and the Gryffindor wizards came out one after another. They found that George and Fred were teasing Aiden, which aroused everyone's interest. After being harassed repeatedly, Aiden finally woke up, opened his beautiful heterochromatic eyes, and found himself surrounded by a crowd. He was stunned for a moment. "Cool, Aiden, you actually stayed out all night and stayed here in Gryffindor." George put his arm around Aiden's shoulder. That's so interesting. I'm going to do that next time. Fred took over the conversation. Everyone, this is our youngest brother, Aiden Pruitt. George and Fred pulled Aiden up and introduced him to everyone. Good morning, everyone from Gryffindor. Aiden greeted them a little confused. Haha. Good morning. Hello. Interesting, I want to go to Ravenclaw next time too. He is so cute. Everyone in Gryffindor responded. Wait, has something strange sneaked in? Aiden thought as he left the Gryffindor common room. After returning to his dormitory and washing up, he went to the hall for dinner. His roommates excitedly asked Aiden about his experience in Gryffindor last night. Wait, you know it now? Aiden was a little surprised. It's been rumored for a long time that a Ravenclaw went to spend the night in Gryffindor, Edmund said vaguely while eating bread. What do Gryffindor dormitories look like? I heard that the rooms in the tower are circular. Oliver also spoke up. I didn't go in. I just spent the night in the common room, Aiden said. That would be boring. Ethan came closer. It turns out that in the 1990s, when there was a lack of electronic entertainment, gossip was the best entertainment. When Aiden heard the rumor again, the content had changed to that a young wizard in Ravenclaw could not bear the persecution of his roommate and was preparing to transfer to Gryffindor. After the transfiguration class in the morning, Professor McGonagall rarely changed her serious image, teased Aiden, and asked if he needed help in transferring Aiden to another hospital. In the afternoon, Aiden decided to do something big. He found Draco walking on the street with 2 followers. Mr. Malfoy, you should know why I am here. Aiden's vertical pupils exuded an irresistible majesty, and Draco and the other 2 were so frightened that they dared not say a word. What do you want to do, my father? Draco's voice trembled a little. You have tarnished the art of wizarding dueling, Mr. Malfoy, and you have also blasphemed the honor of your family. Aiden looked at the 3 men with disdain. You dragged me into this dispute just for the sake of pride, Malfoy. This is not the self-restraint that a noble should have, is it? Now, not only did you do that, you also sabotaged the sacred wizard duel, so I am mentioning the duel to you here. You can look for senior students as much as you want, as long as the purebloods are willing to lose face. Just wait, Slytherin won't be afraid of you. Crabbe and Goyle shouted. Draco's face turned pale and he didn't say anything. Then, at 11 o'clock, the location will be in your Slytherin common room. Aiden left after leaving. Granted, the purebloods were still weakened by the onslaught of the Dark Lord and Muggle wizards, but they were still a formidable force. Their long history has allowed them to accumulate vast knowledge and secrets unknown to ordinary people, and Aiden really wants to get his hands on them. Since Slytherin respects the strong, let's start with these little wizards. Ding, the Dark Lord's path has been opened, rewards. Shut up, you don't have that ability at all. Aiden rolled his eyes. In the afternoon, Aiden went to the headmaster's office to receive the rune teaching that Dumbledore promised. Arrived in front of the gargoyle stone beast door. Instructions. Asked the stone beast. Licorice wand, chocolate frog, BB every flavor beans, lemon sherbet. You are practicing your lines. The instructions are correct. The stone beast stood up and opened the door. Aiden went through the spiral staircase and arrived at the principal's office, where he saw a bumblebee fishing on the desk. Dumbledore stopped paddling when he saw Aiden coming and said seriously, "Good afternoon, Aiden. What can I do for you? Come and learn the runes you promised. Don't tell me you are busy. I saw you slacking off." Aiden looked at Dumbledore. "Oh, okay, then let's hurry up." Dumbledore smiled. Taking out Nico's book, Dumbledore spoke slowly, "Aiden, runes are not just a combination of letters. They are the language used by ancient wizards to communicate with heaven and earth and understand the universe." He pointed to the first rune on the page and continued, "This rune represents flame. It is the oldest known rune in existence. Flame symbolizes the starting point of civilization and can dispel darkness. You see, this stroke represents the lighting of the flame, and this stroke represents the keeping of the flame burning." Aiden listened attentively, his fingers following Dumbledore's instructions, gently tracing the mysterious rune in the air. As he moved, a subtle force seemed to flow through his fingertips. It was the magic of runes flowing quietly. Aiden learned quickly and Dumbledore taught very attentively, and they soon completed today's study. Aiden, Rune Mastery +1. After class, Dumbledore took out the pile of cockroaches and looked at Aiden eagerly, but was rejected by Aiden. By the way, Aiden, I have one last thing to tell you. Dumbledore looked at Aiden. What is it, Professor? Aiden asked back. Be gentle at night. Aiden immediately understood what Dumbledore was referring to. Professor, it doesn't depend on me, it depends on how many people will come. Aiden shook his head. Besides, you are largely responsible for Slytherin's fall to this level. Yes, why did Slytherin, who once pursued glory, abandon his bottom line? Dumbledore sighed. Then tell me how many people will come tonight. A sly look flashed in Aiden's eyes. Aren't you very confident? Just guess it yourself. Dumbledore kept the suspense. Chapter 25, Victory over Slytherin. During dinner, Aiden got the Slytherin password. At 11 o'clock, Aiden came to the basement of Hogwarts Castle and was about to go in when he suddenly felt a cold gaze. Aiden used his ability to sense and found out it was Snape, but he did not expose his concealment. After reciting the password, Aiden entered the Slytherin common room. The walls of the Slytherin common room were made of rough stone, hung with silver-green fabrics and tapestries depicting Slytherin's history, and every texture appeared particularly profound under the dim light. The flames in the fireplace danced, casting flickering shadows that contrasted beautifully with the carved wooden furniture in the room. Soft green velvet cushions are dotted throughout, bringing a touch of comfort and luxury to this slightly dark space. Obviously, the Slytherin members were already waiting for Aiden's arrival. The furniture had been moved to the corners, leaving only a wide open space in the middle. Aiden looked at Marcus Flint, Miles Bletchley, Glenderrick, Lucian Bowl, Brayson Zabanai, Gemma Farley, Draco, Goyle, Crabbe. It's quite a big deal, Aiden said with a smile. Aiden Pruitt, before we begin, let me ask you again, is this between you and Malfoy, or between you and Slytherin? Gemma Farley asked. If it's a personal grudge, some of us won't participate. If it's about the school, don't blame us for outnumbering the minority tonight. It was originally a personal grudge, Ms. Gemma Farley, but now that we are here, we might as well have a fight. I believe there are many people who would not want to leave just like that. Aiden narrowed his eyes and looked at the people in front of him, his heterochromatic eyes glowing faintly in the night. Why waste your time talking to him, Gemma? This guy hangs out with those Weasleys all day long. He must have joined the ranks of traitors a long time ago. Marcus Flint said. Oh, pure blood so noble. Aiden raised his eyebrows. Why not be noble? We have noble blood and are stronger than them. We are born to control everything. Said Theodore Knott. Then, if I am stronger than you, will you be under my control? Aiden's eyes curved into a beautiful arc. Let's see what we can do. We'll take them down one by one and give you plenty of preferential treatment, said Gemma Farley. Bring it on. The crowd pushed aside, leaving a space as the duel arena. Malfoy came on stage first. He took out his wand and was about to cast a spell when Aiden flicked his finger and used the wandless spell to push the enemy back 3 feet. Malfoy was knocked flying and fell into the crowd, his lips tightly pursed and he said nothing. The next person to come on the scene was Goyle, who was also knocked away, and then Crabbe, who suffered the same fate. He's very skilled in magic, be careful. Marcus Flint to Lucian Bowl. Lucien Ball walked into the arena and raised his hand to cast a stunning spell. Aiden had already used his ability to read Lucien Ball's thoughts. He tilted his head slightly and escaped the curse. It's legilimency, Gemma Farley reminded. Tisk, despicable sir. Aiden frowned. He raised his hand and cast a stunning spell on Lucien Ball, who was knocked unconscious. Slytherin's round-robin battle was not over yet. Next, Cassius Warrington, Graham Montague, Terence Higgs, Miles Bletchley, Brayson Zabanai, and Glenderrick took the stage one after another and were knocked unconscious one after another. It seems that there are only 2 prefects left. Aiden finally took out his wand and waved it. Let me do it. Marcus Flint walked into the venue. Aiden gave him a dueling salute, but Marcus did not return the salute. He raised his hand and cast a disarming spell. That's pretty despicable. Aiden used the shield charm to block the disarming curse. The means are unjust, that's the norm for Slytherins. Marcus seemed a little pleased with himself, and then fired a fire spell at Aiden. Aiden used the spring of water to summon a large amount of clean water. He raised his wand suddenly, and the clean water extinguished Marcus's fire. For a moment, steam filled the Slytherin lounge. With the help of water mist, Aiden cast a silencing spell and an illusion spell on himself. As the mist dissipated, Marcus found that he had lost his target and looked around, trying to determine Aiden's location. Expelliarmus! Aiden's voice came from behind Marcus. The spell hit Marcus and the wand fell out of Marcus' hand. Seeing the wand slip out of his hand, Marcus turned around and swung his fist, ready to give Aiden a physical version of a knockout blow. Unfortunately, Aiden saw through his thoughts, stretched out his left hand and pushed into the void, and Marcus flew out. Seeing Marcus defeated, Gemma Farley walked into the field. Aiden Pruitt, we have no intention of making an enemy of you. Things started with Malfoy's provocation, but it has come to this point. We have to have a fight. Gemma Farley pointed her wand at Aiden. Please. Aiden gave another dueling salute, and Gemma Farley returned the salute. Everyone is petrified. Gemma Farley took the first step. Armor protection. Aiden broke the spell. Gemma Farley waved her wand and the surrounding furniture flew towards Aiden. Aiden used a blasting spell to blow up the flying furniture, leaving debris on the ground. Gemma Farley seized the opportunity and used transfiguration on the debris around Aiden. A large number of vines grew up and tied up Aiden's feet. Awesome! This was the first person Aiden had seen who used transfiguration in actual combat. Aiden thought to himself, without stopping his hands, he used the splitting spell to cut the vines on his feet. Gemma Farley took advantage of Aiden's gap and fired a stunning spell at him. Armor protect yourself. Aiden hurriedly used the armor spell to protect himself, but was hit and staggered. Seeing that Aiden had revealed a bigger flaw, Gemma Farley prepared to take advantage of the situation and pursue him. Aiden glared at Gemma Farley and launched a shock attack. Gemma Farley suddenly felt as if she was facing a dragon, and the rhythm of her spellcasting was disrupted. Aiden seized the opportunity and cast a disarming spell to knock Gemma Farley's wand away, winning the duel tonight. Anyone else want to go up? Aiden said to the remaining Slytherins. Unfortunately, after the fierce confrontation, no young wizard was ready to continue fighting, and just like that, Slytherin welcomed their emperor, Fog. No one came up, so I won. Aiden laughed. It's been a long time since we had this kind of activity. It's been a pleasant evening. Good night to you all. Aiden waved and prepared to leave. The moment Aiden turned around, the magic sent him a warning. Ding, host. Go to hell, you damn pure blood traitor, 4-5. An unknown senior in the crowd shouted. The shadow of the attack loomed over Aiden, but he also foresaw it through the reminder of magic. He turned his head and looked at the man. In the center of the heterochromatic irises is an erect pupil, and at this moment these eyes are emitting infinite rage, the rage of a dragon. Frenzy, this is the first time Aiden used this ability after entering Sequence 7. Aiden triggered the man's emotions, sending him into a frenzy and causing him to suffer severe mental damage. The man, who did not want to be named, collapsed with foam coming out of his mouth. Aiden glanced at the Slytherin group, told them to take care of themselves, and slowly walked out of the Slytherin common room. Chapter 26. Afterwards. Aiden walked out of the Slytherin common room, and Snape, who had been hiding in the dark the whole time, finally jumped out. Should I thank you for not killing me, Mr. Pruitt, the great genius of Ravenclaw? Why does this person speak so sarcastically? Aiden complained secretly. Ding, it's not the first day you've known him. What are you talking about, Professor? We are a loving family. We are here to enhance our friendship at night. How could we kill someone? Aiden said with a smile. Then may I ask our great genius, what are your plans after ascending the throne of Slytherin? Are you planning to gather the pure blood families, attack the Ministry of Magic and the Wizengamot, and take over Dumbledore's throne? Slander, he slandered me. Aiden cried out in his heart. How could that be, Professor? Slytherin has always been the place where the strong are respected. I just won by chance over some people. Aiden said modestly. I'll keep an eye on you, Mr. Pruitt, and for your night out, come to my detention room on Wednesday night. Snape said this and turned away, his fluttering robes making him look like a giant bat. I didn't even get any points deducted from me. Aiden said to himself. 10 points from Ravenclaw. The voice echoed in the corridor. Ding, you get the hammer you asked for. You shut up. The next day, the news that Aiden chose Slytherin spread, attracting everyone's attention. Aiden, you picked out the entire Slytherin last night. Edmund exclaimed in disbelief. The whole thing. Ethan also exclaimed. And you didn't take us with you. Oliver accused. I suggest you three just start performing crosstalk, which is an Eastern profession. It can make a lot of money if you do it well. I think you three have the talent for it. Aiden rolled his eyes helplessly. Besides, it was leaked on the second day. It seems that Slytherin is not a monolithic group. Edmund, you are well informed. Let me ask you something. What's up? Did Slytherin admit students from the Muggle world in previous classes? Aiden asked. Of course there is. Although those idiots talk about bloodline every day, we all know that entering Slytherin does not depend on bloodline. Edmund gestured vigorously. Is that what you call your friends? Aiden picked up the tea and drank it in one gulp, giving the three of them a hint. Just because I call them idiots doesn't stop me from being friends with them, Edmund laughed. I feel like you should go to Slytherin. Ethan teased Edmund. Who told me that I was born smart? Edmund said narcissistically. You Oliver made a funny expression. Wait, aren't we here to stop Aiden? Edmund saw that everyone was surrounding him and quickly changed the subject. But an unknown psychologist had already used hints and quietly left, leaving the three of them staring at each other in bewilderment. Along the way, every little wizard who met Aiden would come up to ask him questions, which made Aiden very annoyed. Helpless, Aiden could only cast an disillusionment spell on himself and quickly headed to the library. The library was as quiet as usual, which gave Aiden, who had been harassed all the way, a moment of peace. After finding an empty seat and settling down, Aiden took out the book Runes, From Entry to Grave and began to read. Just as Aiden was immersed in the book, the chair next to Aiden was pulled away and someone sat down. Looking up, it was Hermione, and his reading ability instantly told Aiden what she wanted to say. Aiden could only raise his index finger and gesture to Hermione to keep quiet. He took out his wand and cast a silencing spell. The two of them were surrounded by magic power, isolating the sound from inside and outside from being transmitted. Okay, you can talk now. Aiden said. Aiden, can you tell me about? Hermione was a little expectant. Okay, miss, I know your question. I have been asked so many questions along the way that I can basically recall every detail of last night. Aiden interrupted Hermione expressionlessly. It didn't pick off their entire house, it didn't eat the Slytherin students, and it didn't teach Malfoy a lesson. He picked out a few key pieces of information and told Hermione, satisfying her desire for gossip. Then Hermione turned hostile. Oh, Aiden, you shouldn't do this, night out, dueling, you'll be expelled. Hermione looked worried. Besides, I saw a wizard from Slytherin being transferred to St. Mungo's this morning. You were too cruel. Well, miss, even though the Pruitt family has fallen to the point where I am the only one left, they still don't dare to expel me. And that guy, do you know that he is going to use the killing curse on me? What? The killing curse? This is too dangerous. Look, if you hadn't violated the school rules, this wouldn't have happened. So I won't get into trouble. They won't blame me for what happened to that gentleman, and I won't investigate his killing curse. This is the tacit understanding between the dirty adults. But he hasn't had time to use the killing curse on you yet. Hermione asked. How do you know? Okay, I saw it. Not to mention that so many little wizards saw it last night. Even if they can't testify for me, as a telepathist, it's still very easy for me to draw a section of my own memory to prove myself. Aiden also understood that Hermione had learned about the situation from the Slytherin people in advance and rushed over to show her concern for him, so he explained the whole thing. I didn't realize you have such a wide network of contacts. Aiden raised his eyebrows. That's right. Hermione was very proud. Since I last spoke to you, I've tried many different conversational techniques and practiced a lot. Slytherins are not united internally, and as long as we divide them, stir up conflicts, and target their preferences, we can easily control them. Hermione showed off her newfound social skills. Wait, you took the Dark Lord's script? Aiden was very surprised. But he didn't dare to speak out his true feelings, so he could only agree superficially, "Great, great." After leaving the library, Aiden and Hermione came to the auditorium. Suddenly, a familiar voice came to their ears, "Aiden, so you are here." Aiden looked up and saw that it was Harry and Ron. They looked a little excited, as if they had something important to share. "Why are you here?" Aiden asked. "Hey, we heard some interesting rumors about your feats in Slytherin last night," Harry said with a smile. "Yeah, it's spread all over the school. Everyone is talking about how you defeated Slytherin. You are the celebrity of the school now," Ron said excitedly. "Anyway, it's very kind of you to teach Malfoy a lesson." Harry and Ron echoed each other. "But Snape caught me, and I got points deducted and detention." Aiden was worried that the two stupid reindeer would get too excited, so he quickly poured a basin of cold water on them. "I'm willing to take detention if it means teaching Malfoy a lesson." Harry clenched his fists. Using his ability to calm the two people, Aiden exclaimed in amazement, "It seems that you and Draco are truly in love." Chapter 27, Halloween and Ballet. Since the Slytherin duel, the little snakes seemed to have restrained themselves and no longer looked down on people every day. Aiden, on the other hand, had a very fulfilling time during this period. In addition to his normal classes, he also had to participate in confinement, spell development, and rune learning. Ding, you still need to participate in the small class, and small class. Narrator, hey, shut up. On the other side, an owl brought the little wizards the news that Gringotts had been invaded. Combining what Harry had seen and heard in the corridor on the third floor, he vaguely guessed the treasure that the three-headed dog was guarding. But Harry didn't care too much. After all, who could do anything under Dumbledore's nose? Flash forward to Halloween, and in the afternoon Hagrid is delivering pumpkins to be used as decorations for the Halloween party in the evening. "Hey, Hagrid, let me help you." Aiden saw Hagrid holding the cart, walked forward and used the levitation spell to make the pumpkin fly towards the castle by itself. "Oh Aiden, thank you so much, you know they don't let me use magic." Hagrid hid his little pink umbrella. After some effort, the two decorated the auditorium. Huge black bats were hung from the ceiling, their wings flapping slightly, as if they would fly down at any time. The walls were covered with spider webs, on which spiders were busy shuttling back and forth. The flickering candle flames added a touch of eerie atmosphere to the entire auditorium. Pumpkins carved into scary faces were placed throughout the auditorium, their eyes glowing orange. At night, the little wizards in Hogwarts gathered in the hall to enjoy their Halloween dinner. As Aiden forked up a piece of steak smeared with black pepper sauce and took a bite, Quirrell stumbled into the hall, his turban askew and his face full of fear. They watched him run to Dumbledore, grab the table and gasp, "The troll has gone down to the dungeons. I've come all the way here to tell you." After saying that, Quirrell fainted on the ground. "This is too fake," Aiden commented as he took a sip of the lemon juice. There was a commotion in the hall, and the little wizards ran around in panic. "Silence!" Dumbledore used his loud voice and the hall fell silent. "Listen, prefects," he announced loudly, "lead the students of this house back to their dormitories immediately." The young wizards from the 4 academies gathered around their respective prefects and evacuated the hall in an orderly manner. Harry and Ron saw Snape, who looked hurried. "Look, Snape left in a hurry. He must have let the troll in," Harry said to Ron. "We should go stop him," Ron said bravely, and the two of them left the team. Hermione, who was at the back of the team, also noticed that Ron and Harry had separated, and after much hesitation she finally chased after them. As Aiden was following his prefect Eleanor Hawthorne back to Ravenclaw, a silver light squeezed out from the ceiling and flew to Aiden's side. Dumbledore's voice was carried by the silver light and sent into Aiden's ears. "Aiden, Ron, and the others are going to face the troll. Do you want to join in on this adventure?" "Oh, this silly Ronnie." Aiden sighed, hooked his fingers, covered himself with the disillusionment spell, and left the team. In the basement, Harry and Ron jogged to the corner of the corridor leading to the ladies' bathroom. "You shouldn't be here. Dumbledore told us to go back to the tower." Hermione spoke behind them, scaring them both. "Why are you only talking about us?" "You're here too," Ron retorted. "Okay, keep your voice down," Harry stopped. Just then, a foul odor filled the air. Then they heard several voices coming from behind, and behind them, the heavy footsteps of a pair of huge feet dragging and a low gurgling sound coming from the throat. Harry and his group were surrounded by 3 trolls. The troll looked at the little wizard in front of him, dragging a wooden stick and walking towards them step by step. 3. Hermione screamed. Go left, there's only one. Harry shouted desperately to Ron. He picked up a stone and threw it at the troll with all his might. Ron also waved his wand, using all he had learned in his life to cast a few spells, but unfortunately all failed. Seeing this, Harry jumped up, threw himself on the troll's neck, and stuck his wand into the troll's nose. Tisk, this wand is no longer useful. Aiden was watching the show while wearing the disillusionment charm. Hermione was stunned and stood there motionless. Aiden gave her a hint, and under the stimulation of the hint, Hermione woke up, took out her wand and cast a spell on the troll. Aiden watched the 3 of them work together to hold back a giant monster, and turned to walk towards the other 2. The other 2 trolls watched Harry and his companions fight stupidly. Fortunately, the trolls had small brains and did not have the habit of hunting in groups, otherwise Harry would have to face a beating from the 3 trolls. Aiden stroked his chin and looked at the 2 giant monsters. They had strong physiques, magic-resistant skin, and they were crazy and stupid. Giant way? An idea flashed through Aiden's mind, but he quickly rejected it. The giant monster did not show strong supernatural abilities. As Aiden was sizing up the troll, Harry and his crew were entering the final stages of a fight. It's been a while since we've been delayed, so I'll let you try out the semi-finished product I developed. Aiden put his hands together, touched his 5 fingertips lightly, his palms were hollow, magic power flowed in the center of his palms, and the suggestive ability of the extraordinary sequence was slowly injected into them. Let's do a ballet, the magic dance spell. The spell mixed with the power hit the 2 trolls. The magic hypnotized the 2 trolls, and the idea of dancing ballet was forcibly written into the trolls' brains. Accompanied by the moonlight, 2 giant monsters danced in the corridor. It was really eye-catching. Well, it seems that this move needs to be improved after the sequence is up to standard. The spell written directly into the brain will still be resisted. Aiden concluded after sensing the giant monster's body. On Harry's side, Ron finally used the levitation spell under Hermione's guidance and directly fixed the troll's stick. Under the action of gravity, the stick hit the troll on the forehead and successfully knocked the troll unconscious. Ron is much stronger than Hermione in terms of magic output. Is this Weasley's bloodline? Aiden continued to eat melons after returning. No, maybe it's not just Weasley. With the intermarriage of pure bloods, Ronnie has too many magical bloodlines in his family. It seems that Ronnie is still a potential stock, and we can arrange some training for him in the future. In this way, Aiden happily arranged Ron's studies for a long time to come. When Harry and the others calmed down, several powerful auras were approaching. It seemed that Professor McGonagall had arrived. In order not to get involved in Professor McGonagall's anger, Aiden chose to oil the road. After a moment, Professor McGonagall was the first to rush over, followed by Professor Snape, and last of all was Quirrell. Snape looked at the 2 dancing trolls with great interest. Professor McGonagall took out her wand and waved it, causing the 2 trolls to sink directly into the ground. Then she stared at the 3 people sternly, her lips turning pale with anger. What on earth do you want to do? Professor Magnus said angrily. Her voice was horrible. You are lucky you were not killed. Why don't you just stay in the dormitory? Hermione stepped forward to take responsibility for her mistake, and the 3 of them offset their mistakes and received no points deducted. Harry was the one who keenly, discovered the wound on Snape's leg. Then, the group left the basement. Chapter 28. Heart and Soul. The next day, the news that the Great Savior had defeated the trolls spread like wildfire, and Harry once again experienced the feeling of being surrounded by fame. That troll was 20 feet tall, ugly, and stinking. Harry and I. Ron was boasting excitedly at the dinner table, and it seemed obvious who leaked the news. When Aiden arrived at the restaurant, he saw Ron, who was acting aggressively, and walked straight to the Gryffindor table and sat down. Aiden, you didn't see? Ron said. Oh, really, my dear brother, do you want to let your aunt know about your heroic deeds last night? Aiden acted cute to Ron. No need. Ron suddenly became listless. Aiden, last night were you? Hermione hesitated. Aiden nodded to Hermione without saying anything, and Hermione gave Aiden a grateful smile. Hermione, what are you talking about? Do you know how many people envy our bravery last night? Ron did not change. Well, Ron, we just got lucky last night, Harry stopped him. After eating, Aiden left the Gryffindor table and walked through the corridor, ready to go to the library. Suddenly, a black hand reached out, grabbed Aiden and pulled him into the shadows. Magic power circulated around, and the silencing spell blocked the transmission of sound. Aiden was leaning against the wall and was pushed against it by Snape. Professor, if you want to practice this, my suggestion is to pick a red-haired witch from Gryffindor. Aiden quipped, and whispered his next hint. That's enough. Stop showing off your boring abilities. Snape stared at Aiden. What happened to those two giant monsters last night? Troll? Wasn't that dealt with by Harry? Aiden played dumb. I know you were there last night, and the magic on the troll was the Imperious Curse, right? Snape looked at Aiden's eyes viciously again. Do you want to be thrown into Azkaban by the Ministry of Magic? However, Snape's legilimency did not work on Aiden. Instead, Aiden read his worries hidden deep in his anger. It seems that you are a respectable professor. Aiden smiled. It's not the Imperious Curse, I swear. If you don't believe me, you can check my wand. Then tell me, besides the unforgivable curses, what other spells can twist the troll's soul? Snape raised his voice, making Aiden's ears hurt. Okay, Professor, I won't explore the unforgivable curses too early, but are you sure we want to discuss the mysteries of the soul and mind here? Follow me. Snape lifted the spell, threw his robes, and walked with the wind. Aiden lowered his head and followed. The little wizards he met along the way all looked at him with sympathy, while the little wizards in Slytherin were gloating over his misfortune. In the basement, Snape's office, he pushed open the door, followed by Aiden. When Aiden came in, he waved his wand and the door slammed shut. Okay, now that no one is around, our Ravenclaw genius, the new king of Slytherin, isn't it time for him to introduce his sinister, cruel, and vicious methods to me? Aiden sat down calmly and said, Professor, tea, thank you. Snape glared at him and handed him a cup of hot tea. Aiden picked up the tea and took a sip to moisten his throat. Professor, how do you know that the troll's soul has been twisted? Autopsy. The troll was under a very powerful spell. It was still dancing even during the autopsy. I used the extrasensory spell to observe the troll's soul. How do you know it's mine? Our great genius doesn't really think your poor disillusionment charm can fool two deans. Well, Professor, first of all, I can be sure that I definitely did not use the unforgivable curse. The Imperious Curse requires a huge amount of negative emotions as support, which is very polluting. You should also be able to sense that I don't have any trace of being addicted to the dark arts. What about the troll's soul? How do you explain it? Professor, I can tell you that I have made deep explorations in the spiritual realm, and I have entered the collective subconscious ocean of living things. The collective unconscious ocean. Oh, maybe changing the word may help you understand. I saw it in my family's collection of books. Wizards call it a hazy dream. Having worked at Hogwarts for many years, you must have heard that death is just another great adventure. Yes, that's the nonsense that the insane principal said with his brain clouded by sweets. But what if this is true? What do you mean? Be clear. To put it simply, after a wizard's body dies, his soul will not die immediately, and after the soul dies, his mind will still not die. A wizard needs to experience 3 deaths to truly die. Triple. Yes, this is what our family ancestors discovered, the difference between wizards and muggles. The mind of a magical creature exists independently of the soul, which allows our mind to travel to other places through the halo after our physical body dies. For ordinary creatures, the mind and soul are highly integrated. After death, the soul will sink into the sea of collective subconsciousness, which is the blurred illusion. What does this have to do with the troll? Of course, Professor. I was born with the ability to control the power of the mind. I integrated magic with the mind and let the spell act on the troll's mind. The soul of a magical creature has a lower priority than the mind, so it is naturally distorted by the mind. In other words, the troll used his own thoughts to distort his own soul. Evil magic, evil imp, Snape commented. Aiden ignored Snape and continued, the unforgivable curse is also a combination of mind and magic, but the magic has changed too much, which makes it basically hopeless after being cursed. Besides, wizards have been developed for so many years, I can't be the first person to explore this field. By leveraging the power of the mind through the huge negative emotions and combining it with magic, the final product is the unforgivable curse, the desire to kill, the desire to dominate, the desire for revenge, and the primitive and pure emotions of mankind. Didn't you say you didn't study the unforgivable curses? Snape was furious. After reading the information, I found that it all relied on the contributions of predecessors. Moreover, using emotions to pry open the mind adds an extra process, and the conversion efficiency is too low. For me, it is not worth it. Aiden simply told Snape everything. One last thing. Does this spell have a counter curse? Snape asked. Yes, it's actually very simple. Any wizard who has done some exploration into the spiritual realm can easily build his own spiritual defense to resist this kind of attack from the mind. Aiden narrowed his eyes. For example, the Patroness Charm, a strong positive emotion that protects the wizard's mind, provided some protection for wizards in that crazy era of exploring the soul, and therefore it is called the oldest and most powerful white magic. Okay, I get it, now get out of my office. Snape ordered Aiden to leave. It's time to get rid of the donkey. Aiden pouted and walked out. The office fell silent, leaving Snape alone, thinking about something. Chapter 29. After satisfying the curiosity of the old head of Slytherin, Aiden once again set out on the road to the library. I'm going to look for the documents that record the legendary stories in Hogwarts. During his years of research on magic, Aiden discovered that predecessors tended to mistake some truths for legends and record them. When he arrived at the library, he still saw the familiar Madame Pants and the familiar chairs. Aiden found a book called Bedtime Stories for Little Wizards and started reading. After half an hour of hard study, Aiden discovered that this was just a fairy tale. Forget it, let's just relax. Aiden returned the book reluctantly and walked out of the library. At noon, at the dinner table, Edmund and his party wore robes and wrapped themselves in scarves, as if preparing to go outdoors. Edmund, are there any outdoor activities? Aiden asked, puzzled. You didn't know? It was Ethan who answered. There's a Quidditch match this afternoon, Gryffindor vs Slytherin. Oliver said excitedly. So, want to come along, Aiden? Edmund invited. Of course. Aiden smiled and followed. In the afternoon, on the Quidditch field, the gentle sunshine fell on the earth, and the breeze blew across the grass, bringing up a few pieces of grass. This was a rare good weather in England. Aiden and his roommates headed to the high platform, where the Quidditch players had already entered the field to prepare. In the locker room, Harry and his teammates changed into bright red robes, the Slytherins would wear green. Madame Hooch was the referee for this match. She stood in the middle of the field, holding a broom in her hand, waiting for the two teams. I need to make sure the match is fair, said Madame Hooch, but her eagle eyes were fixed on Slytherin captain Marcus Flint. 15 brooms were raised high, and the race began. The commentator was Jordan Lee, with Professor McGonagall sitting next to him. As the whistle blew, the two sides began a fierce confrontation. Aiden watched his 3 roommates indulge in Quidditch and quietly slipped away from the stands. Arriving at the Gryffindor stand, Hagrid and Hermione sat in the last row. Hagrid's huge figure was very conspicuous in the crowd. He was carrying a golden monocular telescope. Come on, Harry, Hagrid kept shouting. Hi, Hagrid, Hermione. Aiden went over to say hello. Oh, Aiden, you're here, come and sit here. Hagrid greeted warmly. The golden snitch appeared in the air, and Harry hurriedly drove his broom to chase it. Suddenly, there was a disturbance of magical power and Harry's broom began to sway from side to side. Yes, Snape, he's chanting. Hermione observed through the telescope. What should we do? Ron panicked. I'm going to stop him. Aiden raised an eyebrow. I'll go with you, Hermione said decisively. The two came down from the Gryffindor stand and rushed to the professor's stand. Ding, host, do you want to fight Voldemort? The long-lost system suddenly spoke. Fight. Aiden was a little surprised. Ding, Voldemort has lost 6 souls in his body. The system patiently guided him. Good, let's get him. Aiden made the decision. Ding, Host, do you still remember that you once sent your consciousness to the ocean of collective subconsciousness through suggestion? Remember, and then... Ding, the name is the shortest spell, and you know his real name, right? After you go in, shout Voldemort's real name, and you can pull Voldemort in. And remember to set the landing place, which is the anchor. How to set it up? Ding, remember the coordinates: the collective subconscious ocean, the zeroth layer of the deep world, the blurred illusion. Okay. Go, and announce to the world the arrival of the Master of the Mind, the system said secretly. After listening to the system's explanation, Aiden used suggestion to let his consciousness sneak into the hazy illusion and used his ability to conceal his appearance. In the hazy fantasy, everything is pure white, the wide white grass and the huge white stands. Aiden walked to the middle of the grass and called out, "Tom Marvolo Riddle." As Aiden's voice rang out, a black wind blew over the white grass, and the Dark Lord and Quirrell were pulled into a hazy fantasy. Impossible, absolutely impossible. I have already achieved eternal life. Who are you and how did you drag me here? The Dark Lord, who knew what he was doing, seemed a little crazy. Oh, don't be like that, dear Mr. Tom, I just want to ask you for advice on magic, I don't mean any harm. However, Aiden's malice was almost overflowing the screen. Well, you won't tell me, right? Then I will pull out your soul with my own hands, roast it over the flames, and get the answer from your soul while you scream. Voldemort raised his wand, and another green light shot towards Aiden, shattering the stands behind him. Aiden threw his robes and disappeared. In a flash, Aiden reappeared behind Voldemort and waved his wand at the fragments of the stands. The fragments turned into knights, raised their spears and charged at Voldemort. Voldemort raised his wand and pushed Quirrell out of the battlefield. At the same time, Aiden walked towards Voldemort, and the knights created by transfiguration jogged around them. Excellent skills, unknown young man. We have no hatred against each other, so why should we fight? Why not join me? I will share the glory of ruling the world with you. Voldemort persuaded patiently. Oh, how do you know we have no grudges against each other, Mr. Riddle? Aiden tried to provoke. Don't mention that name. Voldemort roared and fired a curse at Aiden. Aiden conjured up a silver shield to block it, but Voldemort waved his hand back and snatched away some of the knights conjured by Aiden, and the knights rushed towards Aiden. This guy is quite skilled. If he hadn't shattered his soul, he would have been even stronger. The knight rushed in front of Aiden and was blown into hundreds of pieces. But before the fragments fell to the ground, Aiden swung his wand vigorously, as if he was waving a whip. The fragments turned into glass and floated up, like twinkling stars, flying towards Voldemort. Voldemort dodged the debris again and appeared behind Aiden, ready to cast the killing curse on him. But Aiden, who had anticipated this, used frenzy. Due to the use of the killing curse, Voldemort's emotions reached their peak, and under Aiden's ability, he lost control. His already sparse mental body suffered another severe blow, and he had no choice but to fly towards Quirrell's mental body, attach himself to it, and pull Quirrell out of the blurry illusion. In reality, Quirrell, who had just returned from the hazy illusion, fainted instantly, and Aiden also came to his senses. The battle that took place in the hazy illusion only lasted a few seconds in reality. No need to go any more, Hermione, Aiden stopped him. Why, Harry is still waiting for us. Hermione asked confused. Look, he's back to normal. Aiden pointed outside. Inside the Quidditch field, Harry's broom had returned to normal. Harry flipped over and rode back on the broom, swooped down and accelerated, catching the golden snitch. The game ended with cheers from Gryffindor. Chapter 30. Talk. After a brief battle with Voldemort, Aiden had a preliminary understanding of Voldemort's level. I'm still too weak. Even the loose Voldemort can make me reveal all my cards. Aiden sighed. Ding, that's the Dark Lord, do you want to hear what you are saying? Hey! On the other side, Quirrell's office. You've been exposed, you useless bastard. A powerful wizard has discovered you and dragged us into a hazy fantasy world. Voldemort's angry voice echoed in the office, using spells to torture Quirrell. No, my master, please, give me another chance, Quirrell begged with sobs. We need to speed up the plan, and this battle has made us weak. I'm afraid you will need some means to stay alive. Now, get moving, we have to get the Philosopher's Stone before Dumbledore finds out. Then I will grant you eternal life. Voldemort behind Quirrell's head slowly closed his eyes. Yes, yes, my great master. The office fell into silence. In the cafeteria, Aiden feasted on a hearty meal in the Ravenclaw dining room while his roommates excitedly replayed a Quidditch match. After eating, Aiden went to the 8th floor alone to practice magic in the room of requirement. When I arrived in front of the tapestry, an old voice came from behind me. Oh, here's the interesting part. One time I was in a hurry to use the restroom in the middle of the night, and while wandering here I found a room full of toilets. You have wasted the precious treasure left by Ms. Ravenclaw, Professor Dumbledore. Aiden looked back and saw that it was Dumbledore. I noticed that our defense against the dark arts professor seemed to be getting a little weak. Do you have any clues? Dumbledore winked at Aiden. Maybe he couldn't find a house full of toilets and he got pissed off, Aiden retorted. Okay, Aiden, I'm not spying on you, but I sensed the fluctuations of the hazy illusion. There aren't many people in the whole school who can duel in it. Like you and your old lover. Haha, this is a good joke. I must include it next time I have the chance to write to him. But that's not what I want to ask, how strong is he, Aiden, or has he recovered to that level? You guys still keep in touch with each other through letters? Never mind, that's not the point. It's probably at the level of an average adult wizard, and you're used to using the unforgivable curses, like a prickly hedgehog. Without a physical body and the coordination of magical organs, it was difficult to mobilize the huge amount of magic power, and he was quickly defeated and fled. After hearing what Aiden said, Dumbledore's eyes flashed. Then how confident can we be that the little wizard can be in dealing with him? Are you going to persecute your savior again? Aiden raised his eyebrows. And maybe your cousins, who are now famous in Gryffindor. Dumbledore joked. Oh, another prophecy? Why are you guys always obsessed with prophecies? Aiden sighed. Because this is the power of the human heart, child, maybe you have hope to surpass it, but what about us? We are all human after all, and we can easily be swept away by it, whether it's me, Gale, or Tom. Professor, Ron is my cousin, my beloved relative, my brother. Aiden smiled wickedly. He knew that the prophecy was powerful, and he also understood that although Ron seemed to be in danger along the way, he would actually be protected by the prophecy. So? Dumbledore was a little confused. It'll cost more. Aiden stretched out his hands and rubbed them. What would you like? Alchemy. The Dumbledore family alchemy books are open to you. Good, W. Dumbledore looked at the mercenary Aiden and smiled helplessly. Aiden, I have a feeling that my time may be running out. There are some things I need to tell you in advance. Next, I will try my best to expand Harry's influence. I understand. You just want the world to focus their hopes on Harry. Voldemort marked Harry himself. The more hope people put on Harry, the more miserable Voldemort will lose. After Dumbledore revealed some details, Aiden had already figured out all his plans. Perhaps in terms of magic, Voldemort caught up with Dumbledore, but in terms of planning and means, he lost far. Haven't you seen that the previous prophet was sent to jail by Dumbledore? By the way, Professor, have you ever thought that it's a bit too early for Hogwarts magic education to end at the age of 17? Shouldn't we do some further studies? Aiden's intermittent wit began to act up, and Dumbledore was stunned when he heard it. Appreciate further details. We can look at the degrees that Muggles have come up with and give them high school diplomas at the age of 15 by passing ALs. Wizards pass Newts at the age of 17, and we give them a bachelor's degree certificate. After that, we will set up a master's degree teaching point in Azkaban and issue them master's degree certificates after they finish their studies. Then we will set up a doctoral teaching center in Nurmengard and issue doctoral degree certificates to them after they finish their studies. Dumbledore rolled his eyes after hearing this. Then give this education model a new name, let's call it the Road to Training a Highly Educated Dark Lord, right? Ding, that's amazing, it can even make Dumbledore complain. Dumbledore didn't want to listen to Aiden's nonsense anymore and left the 8th floor directly. After practicing magic, Aiden went to the auditorium to enjoy dinner, but was robbed by Harry and his two companions on the way. Aiden, we need your help. Snape wants to steal Professor Dumbledore's things. Harry said. And he tried to kill Harry, said Ron eagerly. Aiden, can you help Harry? Hermione also pleaded. Aiden looked at the three of them speechlessly, and sighed in his heart, "Professor Snape, if you had maintained your image, you wouldn't have been misunderstood like this." Okay, then let's go to Hagrid's hut and talk," Aiden said and followed the three people to Hagrid's hut. "Oh, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Aiden. Welcome." Hagrid was steaming something in a pot in the hut. "Hagrid, I'm telling you, Snape planned to kill Harry. He cast a spell on Harry's broom," Ron said anxiously. "Nonsense, why did Snape kill Harry?" Hagrid was puzzled. "Then why did Snape try to get past the three-headed dog?" Harry asked rhetorically. "Who told you about Fluffy?" Hagrid said. "Fluway, does that thing have a name?" Hermione also joined in. "Of course, I got it from an Irishman and lent it to Dumbledore to keep watch over Nicholas Flamel. I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have let it slip." Hagrid was a little annoyed. "This is top secret." "Okay, stop asking." An angry Hagrid drove the four people out of the hut. Aiden, who didn't say a word the whole time. "It seems that he is angry," Aiden said. "I guess so. Come and apologize to him next time," Harry said. "Perhaps you should try to give Professor Snape some trust. After all, he has worked in Hogwarts for so many years. Also give Professor Dumbledore some trust," Aiden advised. The three of them did not respond and left worriedly.